Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. The Strongest Master, Killing Through the Multi-Universe. Chapter 26. Su Chen was not too surprised when Daredevil came here. After all, he is Daredevil, and his nose is several times more sensitive than a police dog, and he can find him by smell. After entering, Daredevil looked at Su Chen's store like a normal person. If Su Chen hadn't understood the plot, he would have thought that this guy was a person with intact eyes. Although I can't see it, I can feel that the bugs here are very strange. They seem to have some unknown power. Daredevil stood in the store, looked in the direction of Su Chen and said. Su Chen raised his eyebrows and smiled. Oh, that's good, Lawyer Ma discovered it right away. Su Chen looked at Daredevil with interest. Although he had known about it for a long time, he was still a little surprised by his perception. His senses in all aspects were obviously stronger than he imagined. Daredevil was obviously reluctant to hear the other party's name, and said, Mr. Su Chen, let me introduce myself again. My name is Matt Murdock, not Ma. Although I don't know how you know my identity, you still want to call me Lawyer Matt. Quote. Oh, okay, Lawyer Ma. Daredevil. Su Chen took several well-fed and drunk GU insects back into his orifice. The few GU insects rewarded by the system were not released. He knew that Daredevil came here not only because he was curious about how he knew his identity, but also for other reasons. Su Chen stopped teasing the other party and said with a smile, Actually, the reason why I know your identity is because of my bug. Seeing Daredevil's serious expression, Su Chen knew that nonsense was effective and continued. My bug is no ordinary bug. It's too easy to find someone. After hearing this, Daredevil completely dispelled his doubts. No wonder. It turns out that the other party also has tracking means. However, the other party's tracking method is to control poisonous insects. As Daredevil, at least he is very famous in Hell's Kitchen. It is quite normal to be noticed by Su Chen, who also has extraordinary power. It's just that the bugs the other party mentioned seem to have some kind of special power. Although he could not feel the existence of energy, what he could see in his mind was that the heat energy emitted by those bugs was significantly higher than that of ordinary bugs. This shows that these bugs must have special energy. Moreover, although he received the true inheritance from his master, Gunsu, he always felt a kind of oppression when facing the young man in front of him. This shows that the other party's power is far greater than his own. Even if Master Gunsu is added, he may not be his opponent. Suddenly he seemed to think of something and said, Is this the Chinese GU insect? At this time, Su Chen was really surprised. You actually know about GU insects. Daredevil felt that he had finally surprised Su Chen, and his mood relaxed a little. My master once told me many things about China, including your Miao territory. It is said that they will choose many poisonous insects to raise. The one who survives in the end becomes GU, with incredible power. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Su Chen laughed again. He thought the other party had read the novel. However, that novel obviously did not appear in this world. He had also specifically investigated the online literature of their dynasty before. The legend of the GU told by Daredevil is obviously the normal Miao Zhang GU. Feeling Su Chen's emotions, Daredevil was slightly startled and asked, Isn't this true? Bingo, that's the right answer. Su Chen snapped his fingers. Those you mentioned are just the simplest GU over there. Mine is not like that. Besides, those are just poisonous insects, they can't be called GU. Well, China is really a country with a mysterious culture. Hearing Su Chen's explanation, Daredevil couldn't help but sigh. Su Chen is a little funny, there are many things you don't know. If this world still integrates comics, then maybe there will even be a heaven in Chinese mythology. Tell me, the famous Daredevil didn't come to me because he was curious about why I know your identity, or because he was curious about my GU. Su Chen stopped chatting and went directly to the topic. Daredevil lowered his head slightly, as if speaking, and after a few seconds, he looked up at Su Chen. I want to ask you a favor. Daredevil felt that Su Chen was listening to him quietly instead of being impatient, so he continued to speak. Many people have disappeared in Hell's Kitchen recently. Through investigation, I found that they were captured by a group of vampires. At this point, Daredevil did not continue. He believed that Su Chen already knew what he was going to say. Su Chen looked at the other party, spread his hands and said, "So, you want me to kill these vampires with you?" "That's right. Then why don't you go by yourself? With your skills, even dealing with a dozen vampires shouldn't be a problem." Su Chen had already perceived this the last time they met. This Daredevil is obviously stronger than the one in the movie. In fact, the other party still has potential that has not yet been developed. Daredevil did not hide anything and explained, "I have investigated for a long time and found that this is not an ordinary vampire den. They may have the legendary blood clan, purebred vampires, and even a count." Quote. After listening, Su Chen frowned slightly. The words purebred vampire have different meanings. Ordinary vampires are no longer afraid of ordinary thermal weapons, and can even withstand attacks from large-caliber sniper rifles. And purebred vampires already have extraordinary powers. Su Chen has never seen vampires in this world, and wonders if they can follow the wind like Morbius, or even fly. However, observing Daredevil's emotions, it can be seen that these purebred vampires are obviously difficult to deal with. As for the Duke he was talking about, Su Chen had no idea. Is it possible that it can be stronger than the Ancient One, level godfather like Odin and other powers? Thinking of this, Su Chen shook his head and said, "Why should I go? There is no benefit. I don't do anything superhero like you mad lawyer. Willing to become an angel to help others." Quote. Daredevil just thought that Su Chen was thinking so seriously and thought that the other party would definitely agree. As a result, he actually refused. The young man in front of him was a little different from what he imagined. The vampires there should have unimaginable wealth. If you agree to take action, all of that wealth will be yours. Okay, I agree. If you don't make money, that's not a fool. Well, Daredevil originally just had the attitude of giving it a try, and had even prepared to fight the Blood Clan desperately. Who knew that the other party would decisively agree to the offer of money? Su Chen didn't look at the other party at all, waved his hand and said, "Tell me about the strength of that Blood Clan." He believed that Daredevil should have investigated it. Daredevil nodded and did not hide anything, telling Su Chen all the information he had obtained. After hearing this, Su Chen breathed a sigh of relief. According to Daredevil, the count of Blood Clan's strength should be at the surface level. Not necessarily as good as Hulk at full blast. With my current strength, I am not afraid at all. He looked at Daredevil and said, "Give me 2 days. Meet at my store at 8 o'clock in the evening." When Daredevil brought up vampires, Su Chen had already decided to take action. How could I let go of such a good opportunity to defeat monsters and upgrade? However, agreeing all at once seemed a bit cheap of him. There must be enough interest. Next, Su Chen released 4 GU insects and began to refine them one by one. 2 days later, at about 7:30 in the evening, Daredevil appeared in front of Su Chen's store wearing his trademark night clothes. After entering the door, I saw Su Chen eating a lot. The latest news is playing on the TV in the store. Tony Stark, president of Stark Industries, suddenly announced yesterday that he would officially close all weapons departments and switch to new energy sources. Stark Group's stock has plummeted, and it has lost its former glory as the largest company in the United States. Recently, there have been multiple missing persons cases in Hell's Kitchen on the west side of Manhattan, New York, and the police have launched a comprehensive investigation. Recently, violent explosions have always occurred in certain areas, and countless innocent people have died. The energy generated by the explosion is so powerful that not even human bones are left. Su Chen couldn't help but nodded slightly. Shit Dako, this guy is quite efficient at getting things done. I just don't know what his plans are in the future, whether he will start developing the Mark armor. You seem to have become stronger. Daredevil's super senses clearly detected a change in Su Chen's aura. It's like it's improved a lot. Yeah, sit down. Su Chen answered somewhat vaguely, but the movements of his hands and mouth did not stop. He has been refining the 4 newly obtained GU insects for the past 2 days. The consumption is too great. Thanks. Seeing Su Chen wolfing down the food, Daredevil was obviously a little anxious. Seeing that the other party was hesitant to speak, Su Chen gulped down a piece of chicken drumstick, pursed his lips, and said, "Don't worry, I can deal with that Earl of Blood Clan." Su Chen knew that he was afraid that his strength would not be able to compete with Count Blood Clan. Okay, I believe you. After receiving Su Chen's answer, Daredevil couldn't help but feel a little guilty. If you choose Su Chen as your companion, you should trust the other person and not doubt your companion. Thinking of this, Daredevil solemnly promised. If it's really impossible to deal with, I will cover you and evacuate first. He put on a black sportswear, thought about it and put on a black mask, and then put the hood of the sportswear on his head. Set off. Daredevil saw the other party's casual clothes and said somewhat dumbly, "Is this what you're wearing? Why don't you wear something else?" Su Chen was a little confused by the other party's question. Daredevil had the urge to hold his forehead. Even if you are very powerful, you should at least wear a body armor. If you don't mind, I still have night clothes, which can at least protect against bullets. No need. If you don't want to go, just tell me the location and I'll go by myself. This guy turns out to be looking down on himself. Not long after, the two arrived in front of a bar in Hell's Kitchen. This bar has no name, just a few blood-red handprints. Even so, you can see that there are a lot of people coming in and out of the bar. Right here, Su Chen looked at Daredevil who was following him and asked. Daredevil nodded breathlessly. That's right, I'll go in and bring out the ordinary people later, and then I'll take action. Just now, he had to use all his strength to keep up with the other party, which once again refreshed his understanding of Su Chen. Wait, however, before he finished speaking, Su Chen's figure had disappeared from the bar door. Now, I have no choice but to bite the bullet. After entering the bar door, turning through several corridors, and passing an underground staircase, you will see the scene inside the bar. The men and women here swayed with the deafening loom. In the corner, there is an eye-catching scene. Most importantly, at the moment, the air was mixed with rich blood. The smell came from the bathroom not far away. It seems that ordinary people have been killed by vampires in the bathroom. Now Su Chen has a very strong perception and can easily feel the attention of the surrounding people. In just a few seconds, Su Chen felt several greedy and dark eyes. The 3 chairs at the bar at 5 o'clock, the one playing with the mobile phone at 9 o'clock, the 2 DJs at 12 o'clock, and the woman in the red dress who keeps posing at 3 o'clock. But these are just on the surface. There should be no less than 30 vampires in that door over there. These guys are obviously going to have a party tonight, but I don't feel any pure vampires. Could it be that they are on the lower level? Su Chen's perception ability is only to perceive these ordinary vampires. It seems that the purebred vampire is hiding deeper, either on the next floor or in a room further inside. No matter what, let's get some points with these monsters first. After entering here, Su Chen almost figured out the situation here in less than 3 seconds and was about to take action immediately. There are vampires here, everyone, go away. However, just when Su Chen was about to rush over and kill several vampires here first, a sweet voice interrupted his movement. A figure wearing a black and white pink battle suit with a red spider embroidered on the chest flashed past him. Her voice caused many people who were indulging in joy to stop their movements. Soon, after everyone saw her outfit, they all waved their hands and made strange sounds of disdain. Then continued to swing to the music. These people obviously regarded this person as a role player to impress others. Seeing everyone like this, the girl in the black and white battle suit was obviously a little anxious. Why don't you believe it? If you don't believe it, just look. Under the surprised eyes of everyone, a white thread shot out from his wrist, hit the chest of the DJ on the stage, and pulled hard. The DJ's body was like paper, flying over the console and hitting the dance floor in front of him. As if he felt pain, the DJ raised his head with a ferocious expression, growled, and revealed 4 long fangs. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked and ran away screaming, "I'm going to suck your blood dry and turn your skin into a doll." These vampires were filled with rage when they saw that a good thing was ruined by this guy. The black and white pink battle suit girl finally realized that she was too impulsive. But in the blink of an eye, the 2 vampires were already attacking. Gwen is in a hurry. It's too late to fight back. Boom, boom. At this moment, a black figure appeared in front of her. 2 screams were heard, and the girl in the black and white battle suit came back to her senses instantly. Then, he heard the figure standing in front of him speak. "Hey, Little girl, you dare to be distracted at this time. The black and white battle suit goddess is a little confused. Why is this voice and this scene so familiar? Look at this back view again. Su Chen. Although Su Chen did not look back and was wearing a hood and mask. But because of her super ability, Gwen can be sure that her feelings are correct. Why did he come to this place? It's true that he knows Eastern Kung Fu, but can he really deal with these vampires? For a moment, Gwen became worried. After she was rescued by Su Chen for the first time, she felt that Su Chen was a special man. Perhaps because of her father's relationship, she has liked to be protected since she was a child. However, now she herself has become a super able person who protects others. However, she is still that little girl at heart, wanting to be protected by others. Su Chen naturally didn't know what Gwen was thinking now. He looked slightly wary of his surroundings and began to prepare for an attack. Daredevil on the side also entered the fighting state. The first time he saw this girl, Su Chen recognized her. This woman wearing the iconic spider battlesuit is none other than Gwen Stacy. Su Chen didn't expect that the Spider-Man of this world would actually become Gwen. Ghost Spider-Man, then will Peter Parker, the Spider-Man, appear again? For a moment, Su Chen didn't understand how the plot of this world should develop. Logically speaking, Spider-Man should definitely appear. Why did Ghost Spider-Man appear? He was curious about what was happening to Gwen these days. So has the Peter Parker of this world become Spider-Man? The confusion in the hall quickly disappeared. Although Su Chen acted quickly, several ordinary people were still killed. Those vampires just now have all been reduced to ashes. This is Su Chen's first time dealing with a vampire. However, in my previous life, I also read a lot of online novels, as well as Marvel comics and movies. I also know that a vampire's weak point is the brain. Su Chen showed no mercy and punched the vampire on the head. Without their heads, these vampires would turn into ashes. Su Chen mobilized a leech-like insect in his orifice, turning it into light and covering his body. Several rays of light appeared where it had turned to ashes, and flew into Su Chen's body. Feeling the growing strength in her body, Su Chen felt happy. Sucking the voodoo is very useful. Gwen couldn't help but widen her eyes. Su Chen not only knows Chinese Kung Fu, but also possesses extraordinary powers. Gwen looked at the figure in front of her in disbelief. At this time, Daredevil's figure finally flashed in. Seeing those ashes, you knew that Su Chen had completed a battle. After opening his mouth in surprise, he came to Su Chen and asked, "Are you injured?" Su Chen shook his head and said, "Protect her later. I can deal with those vampires by myself." "No, you definitely can't deal with dozens of vampires by yourself." Daredevil refused decisively. He admitted that Su Chen's strength was far greater than his own, and through his investigation, he found that there were at least 30 vampires here. Vampires are not ordinary people. Their skin and bones are several times harder than ordinary people. Ordinary bullets cannot cause damage. Su Chen can defeat many with one, but the odds are against dozens of them. Just as Su Chen was about to speak, the door on the left side of the hall suddenly opened. More than 50 figures emerged from inside. These vampires all showed their ferocious fangs, and some had human blood hanging from the corners of their mouths. Apparently, they had just drank human blood inside. Looking at the empty hall and the screams of ordinary people outside, they knew that their party was ruined by these two guys. "Who are you? How dare you come to provoke us? No matter who you are, you must die." "What are you talking about? They brought down the party, so let's drink their blood first." Many vampires were shouting, and the hall was filled with a greedy and gloomy atmosphere. Let's go together." Gwen almost couldn't help but call out Su Chen's name. Then I suddenly thought that my identity could not be revealed, so I immediately changed my mind. Su Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. His perception still needs to be improved. There are actually more than 50 vampires inside. Hearing Gwen's voice, he looked back at her slightly. Not bad, this battle suit highlights Gwen's figure even more. It's just that the battle suit material has not been changed to the bulletproof one at the back. At this time, Gwen was completely sure that this person was Su Chen. She remembered those eyes that fascinated girls very clearly. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but at a certain moment he felt that Su Chen recognized him. "No, definitely not. I'm wearing a battle suit and my eyes are hidden. He won't notice based on my figure alone. Gwen thought so, and the tension in her heart gradually faded away. What she didn't know was that Su Chen already knew the identity of Ghost Spider-Man. What's more, after breaking through to the intermediate level GU Master, one can easily perceive a person's aura. As long as it is someone Su Chen has met, even if the person wears 10 layers of cotton coats, it will have no effect at all. Facing the many vampires rushing towards him ferociously, Daredevil took a good stance and even took out the multi-function stick. Before he could take action, Su Chen stretched out his hand. One after another, the light needles shot out densely towards the vampires who were shouting and rushing towards them. In an instant, the hall was filled with screams again. The needles were like steel nails piercing into tofu, piercing into the heads of many vampires. Puff, puff, the sounds of being turned into ashes sounded out, and in less than 10 seconds, more than 50 vampires were all reduced to piles of ashes. Ding, the host kills the evil vampire and will be rewarded with 50 GU energy blocks. 20 energy points. These low-level vampires are indeed worthless. Su Chen sighed secretly in his heart, and energy points flew into his body from all around. The sum of these energy points is far less than the 20 points of energy rewarded by the system. After receiving the 20 energy points rewarded by the system and the energy absorbed by the suction GU, he was getting closer and closer to the high-level GU Master. I estimate that as long as we kill a few dozen more vampires, we should be able to break through. However, there are obviously no other vampires here. Those pure vampires must be found. At the moment, the hall was unusually quiet. Spider-Gwen's eyes widened. He couldn't believe that so many ferocious vampires were so easily killed by Su Chen. Is this really the Su Chen he knows? Although Daredevil has no eyes, his trembling body is enough to prove his shock. The posture that he just wanted to fight with the vampire was still stuck in midair. If it weren't for the ashes on the ground, he would have thought it was just an illusion. However, Daredevil was mentally prepared after all, and quickly regained his senses, retracted his arm, and coughed slightly in embarrassment. These vampires are just the lowest level. Those pure vampires haven't shown up yet. We can't. Clang. Before Daredevil finished speaking, there was a sound of metal collision. Looking down, he saw Su Chen's palm blocking his abdomen. A sharp object rolled down on the ground. Nails with a metallic sheen. The pure vampire is here. Daredevil reacted instantly. But it was a little late, the tearing air sound struck again. Daredevil and Spider-Gwen felt themselves being pushed. Su Chen's arms danced rapidly. Dang, dang, dang. The nails that exuded a metallic luster were knocked off by the arm covered with a protective film of iron skin GU, and sparks even burst out in the air. Kill him. A gloomy voice came from that door. Several blurry figures flashed towards Su Chen from all directions. These vampires are obviously different from those outside. They all wear burgundy cloaks and their skin is paler. They have discovered that Su Chen is the strongest one, and they must focus on attacking him first. Su Chen was not in a hurry, and the pebble-like jade light GU turned into brilliance that increased in size around him. Purebred vampires are too fast. Their mobility is several times stronger than that of cats, and they constantly use the wall tables in the hall to flash their bodies to attack Su Chen. Their sharp nails are enough to scratch the steel plate, and the walls, tables, and floors of the bar are full of scratches. Even if Su Chen's strength has increased, it is still a little difficult to deal with the vampires that rush towards her from everywhere. Dang, dang, dang. Because the iron skin GU was covered with the moonlight GU, Su Chen's entire body was not only pitch black but also emitted a faint white light. The vampire's sharp nails, as hard as steel, did not cause any substantial harm to Su Chen. On the contrary, Su Chen seized the opportunity of two pure vampires and used the moonblade amplified by the small light GU to cut off their heads. The little light GU also looks like a crescent moon. The amplification is on the moonlight GU, and the moonblade it emits is several times more powerful than before. Ding, the host kills a pure vampire and will be rewarded with 10 energy points. At the moment, there are 5 purebred vampires left. I really need a speed-increasing GU insect. Careful. Gwen behind suddenly let out a rapid shout. Because, a pure vampire's figure flashed quickly, facing Su Chen's open back, and stabbed at the back of Su Chen's neck. The vampire thought the sneak attack was successful, but Su Chen suddenly waved his backhand. A thick light needle more than 20 centimeters emitted from the palm of his hand. The vampire that rushed towards him did not expect that Su Chen would come so suddenly, and it was already too late to dodge. I could only watch as the thick light needle pierced my head. Ding! The host kills a pure vampire and will be rewarded with 5 energy points. The sound of the system sounded, and the energy light group flew out from the ashes of the pure vampire and entered the body. It is only one step away from breaking through to the high-level GU master. Su Chen has clearly felt the realm barrier. Who told you that the needle GU can only turn into small needles to attack in a wide range? Su Chen muttered while shooting light needles at the vampires rushing from all directions. Whoosh whoosh. A series of tearing air sounds sounded, and stone chips punctured by light needles flew around in the bar. Spider-Gwen and Daredevil quickly evacuated and hid outside the hall. They are not vampires, and their defenses are not that strong. Although the numerous small light needles could not penetrate the purebred vampire's head, they blocked their attack route. Su Chen flashed his figure as fast as possible. Puff, puff, puff. Finally, all the vampires were killed by Su Chen. These purebred vampires were so fast, it took several minutes to kill so many of them. The speed of purebred vampires cannot be underestimated. Despite the defenses of Iron Skin GU and Moonlight GU, his body was still scratched with several wounds. The nails of these vampires are highly poisonous. If it weren't for the medical GU secretly recovering from injuries, Su Chen might have fallen into the trap of these loaches. Ding! The host kills a pure vampire and is rewarded with 20 energy points. Boom! After this lifting sound, the barrier inside Su Chen's body completely broke. Su Chen's realm has also reached the level of a high-level GU master. It can be clearly felt that the strength has improved a lot again. In the current situation, Su Chen could deal with the vampires just now in less than 10 seconds. At the moment, Spider-Gwen and Daredevil enter the hall again. The shock in their eyes was enough to illustrate their mental state at the moment. What did they see? Su Chen easily killed the highly mobile vampire by himself. If they had taken action just now, even if they could kill 2 pure vampires, they would have been consumed alive in the end. Are you okay? Are you injured? Arriving next to Su Chen, Gwen looked around at the ragged Su Chen. Su Chen's Iron Skin GU and Moonlight GU can strengthen the body, but cannot strengthen clothes. Therefore, the original sportswear is already in tatters. Similarly, the mask on the face has long since disappeared. Su Chen curled his lips, raised his eyebrows, and said, "Don't worry, these little minions are not worthy of hurting me." Without the mask, Su Chen's handsome face was completely displayed in front of Gwen. Coupled with this playful smile, Gwen couldn't help but bump into her little dear. That's good. Gwen turned her head subconsciously, forgetting that she was still wearing a mask. I'm so sorry that I didn't help you just now. Daredevil Matt Murdock feels guilty. He had wanted to take action several times just now. However, if he really took action, he would not only be unable to help Su Chen, but would also burden him and distract him. This is counterproductive. I could only watch as Su Chen dealt with several fast and scary purebred vampires alone. What you did is right. If you had hindered me just now, you would probably have your neck chopped off. Su Chen spoke without any concern. But hearing these words, Daredevil felt a chill in his ears. He could feel that Su Chen was not joking with him. If you affect his battle, the other party will really do it. Suddenly, his expression changed and he turned towards the door. Who are you? We have no grievances, so why come here to provoke you? A man with pale skin walked out slowly, also wearing a burgundy cloak. The style was obviously more high-level than the ones just now. It was the one who issued the order to kill Su Chen. At the moment, his face looked a little ferocious, but his heart was trembling unsatisfactorily. The strength Su Chen showed just now is really terrifying. You know, those vampires just now could easily deal with a special forces company. But in Su Chen's hands, the entire army was wiped out in just 3 minutes. I am afraid that with this strength, I can only ask my ancestor to come out of seclusion. Seeing the vampire pretending to be calm, Su Chen smiled slightly and replied, "Call that count of yours out. Don't waste time." His purpose is for the so-called Earl of Blood Clan. A high-level GU master, enough to crush the Count of Blood Clan. Maybe if you kill Count Blood Clan today, you can directly break through to the next big realm. GU King, you actually know about Ancestor. The purebred vampire was obviously stunned, but it was quickly replaced by anger. Looking at Su Chen's handsome face, he gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, if that's the case, then I'll satisfy you. I'm afraid you will be made into a blood servant by the Ancestor." Boom. Before he could finish his words, he felt as if he had been hit by a truck. It hit the far wall with a loud bang. Su Chen took back her hand. Why do vampires talk so much nonsense? After all, he was a pure vampire. Even if he was hit into a wall and his chest collapsed, he did not die. His eyes widened in confusion. Whatever he went through, he was punched into the wall. If you keep grinding, I'll blow your head off. Hurry up and summon your vampire count. At this time, Su Chen's voice suddenly brought him back to his senses. The aura coming from Su Chen made him tremble all over. He had no choice but to endure the pain and the humiliation embedded in the wall and began to sing a unique note. Along with the weird chanting, bursts of blood mist began to erupt throughout the hall. The blood mist constantly hovers, condenses, and disperses. 1 minute, 2 minutes, it lasted for 10 minutes, but still no count showed up. Are you okay? Su Chen slapped Haki. This guy is really a vampire, he can't summon a count no matter how he summons him. I guess we won't be able to find that count today. Daredevil also felt a little ashamed. He had vowed to Su Chen before that a vampire count would appear here. As a result, this purebred vampire is obviously unreliable. This made him somewhat embarrassed in front of Su Chen. At the moment, even Spider-Gwen's pretty face behind the mask was full of contempt. This guy simply disgraced himself as a vampire. The Ancestor must have entered a deep sleep. If you wait, I will definitely be able to call him out. The purebred vampire felt the contempt of Su Chen and the others and began to sing harder. Boom, bang bang. Along with the shrill scream, the purebred vampire was hit everywhere on the body with fists as big as sandbags. You can't even shake people if I ask you to. You trash, do you know how much time you've wasted on me? Bang bang bang. You guy, let's see if I don't beat you. At the moment, the wall of the bar had been punched through. Su Chen still punched the pure vampire on the floor with his fist. He also wants this vampire to get new GU insects or gain energy points. As a result, this guy couldn't even shake people. Spider-Gwen and Daredevil looked at this scene with their mouths wide open and their eyes widened. Although they had just seen the cruelty of Su Chen, they were still superficial. Until the vampire couldn't even make a scream, and only one head was still intact. However, looking at Su Chen was like looking at a devil. He wanted to beg for mercy, but his neck had been damaged and he could no longer speak. Looking at this vampire, Su Chen felt bored and wanted to smash the other person's head with a punch. Suddenly, he remembered something, looked at Daredevil behind him, and asked, "You said before that they should have treasure, right?" Yes. Hearing Su Chen's question, Daredevil hurriedly responded. "Okay, if not, you're dead." Su Chen glared at Daredevil fiercely. If this old boy dared to tell lies about this matter, he wouldn't mind letting him experience the experience of setting stone on the wall. This look made Daredevil's steps weaken. I thought to myself, if I tell him, I'm actually not sure whether he will kill me directly. Thinking of this, Daredevil couldn't help but sweat broke out on his forehead. "Do you have any treasure here?" Su Chen looked fiercely into the eyes of pure vampires. He knew that as long as these pure vampires' heads were not broken, they could be restored. It just takes a little longer. Hearing Su Chen's question, the purebred vampire blinked hurriedly and nodded his head several times with difficulty. "Okay, if you dare to lie to me, then you will experience what is scarier than hell." The pure vampire blinked hurriedly and moved his head as much as he could. It can be seen that he has completely regarded Su Chen as a devil. Su Chen stretched his palm forward. A green light emitted, covering the pure vampire's body. Under the horrified looks of Spider-Gwen and Daredevil again, the body of a pure vampire fills up like a balloon at a speed visible to the naked eye. "This is so amazing." Gwen finally couldn't help but cover her mouth and exclaimed. Daredevil opened his mouth even more. Although he has no eyes, he can use his other senses to create images in his mind. Can feel what's going on. He thought Su Chen had shocked him enough, but in the end he was still superficial. Of those mutant powers, it seems that only Wolverine can self-heal. But Su Chen is here to heal others. Is it possible that Su Chen is really the spokesperson of some god? While Daredevil was stunned, the purebred vampire had completely recovered. He hurriedly knelt down at Su Chen's feet, kowtowed frantically, and said, "Thank you for not killing me, sir. The treasures we have here are all down there, and they are all given to you. Please don't kill me. Stop talking nonsense and take me there." Su Chen kicked this guy away impatiently. "Yes, you come with me, sir." The purebred vampire nodded and led the way, looking even more humble than a servant. At the moment, in the hearts of pure-blooded vampires, this young man is simply scarier than the devil from hell. Not long after, Su Chen and the other two followed the pure vampire into an underground gate. The purebred vampire hurriedly turned the big lock with bloody handprints on the door. With a bang, the door opened. The scene inside shocked Su Chen's eyes, including Gwen, and Daredevil as well. In the empty hall, there were only some scattered gold and silver items, 2 gold canes, and some other items. These are considered valuable, but compared to such a large haul, the contrast is simply too great. "Is this your treasure?" Su Chen looked at the pure vampire with some last glimmer of hope. The purebred vampire did not dare to hide it and nodded hurriedly. "Yes, sir, our blood clan, we vampires used to have this room full of treasures. But in the past 100 years, our race has been exterminated very quickly. We couldn't make much money, so we slowly consumed it all. Moreover, we usually only need to drink blood, and money will not be stored. Generally, the money earned will be spent quickly." Quote. Su Chen has always used perception to observe each other. Finally, sadly, I discovered that the other party didn't lie. Including Daredevil, who also nodded and said, "There is nothing wrong with his heartbeat, and he is not lying. These things are worth at least 5 million. Spider-Gwen felt Su Chen's disappointment and hurriedly pulled the other party's clothes to comfort him. She was influenced by her father, who was a police officer since she was a child. If it were her, she would not even dare to ask for the money. It will definitely be handed over to the public. But this is something Su Chen has obtained, and she is not qualified to say more." Hearing her words, Su Chen gave Daredevil a strange look. "If it were before, I would have been extremely happy with this 5 million fortune. But he now has 2.5 billion. And if you do nothing every year, you can get a dividend of 3 billion from Stark Industries. This 5 million is just drizzle to him. Sir, the wealth is all here, can you?" Puff. Before the pure vampire could finish speaking, his head was blasted with a punch. "When did I say let you go? What's more, it's just such a small thing." This time, without seeing Count Blood Clan, it was not worth his while. This scene made Daredevil behind him couldn't help but shrink his neck. The look Su Chen gave him just now made him feel like he was suffocating. Terrible. He now regrets letting Su Chen take action. But if Su Chen doesn't take action, facing these vampires, he will obviously die. I must try my best to stay away from this guy in the future. Ding! The host kills Viscount Blood Clan and is rewarded with 30 energy blocks and 20 energy points. 1 GU worm. The purebred vampire that turned into ruins floated out a ray of light and entered Su Chen's body. The realm of high-level GU masters has been completely stabilized. However, maybe because there is too much external energy in the body, Su Chen always feels that the flow in the meridians is a bit stagnant. Su Chen knew that if things continued like this for a long time, it would affect their breakthrough to the next big realm. It seems that the side effects of sucking the voodoo have begun to show. After solving all these problems, Su Chen took the many GU insects back into their apertures. After, Spider-Gwen and Daredevil saw Su Chen pull out a large sack from nowhere. Entering the room, Su Chen put these things into the sack at an extremely fast speed. Soon, there were only 1 or 2 items left that had not been put in yet. Spider-Gwen and Daredevil couldn't help but be speechless for a while. There is no one to rob you. With your money-grubbing personality, if anyone robs you, they will probably fall out immediately. Not long after, only the last room was left, and Su Chen's movement stopped. It was an exquisite ruby necklace with many small diamond embellishments on the side. It was very delicate and beautiful. After thinking about it, Su Chen threw it directly to Gwen, who was still curious. "Give it to you." Gwen took it with some surprise and saw this exquisite ruby necklace. The natural instinct of girls to like this kind of thing is aroused. There was a hint of joy on her face. Obviously, she liked this ruby necklace very much. However, he soon calmed down. The education she received since childhood reminded her not to accept such valuable things. What's more, he and Su Chen only met once. He handed it back to Su Chen, who had finished searching, shook his head and said, "I can't accept it. We are not friends, nor." She didn't say the word couple later. But Su Chen smiled slightly, with a hint of teasing at the corner of her mouth, and lightly tapped her forehead with her finger. "Since you don't want it, just give it to a girl I know." What was the name of the girl who came over that day? Oh, by the way, her name seems to be Jessica Jones. Quote, "Bring it." Su Chen wanted to continue to say something, but Gwen snatched the ruby necklace away. The speed shocked Su Chen and Daredevil. Looking at the two of them, Gwen was immediately embarrassed. I like this thing very much. It definitely doesn't look as good on other women as me. Well, it's time for us to leave. The police will be here soon." Gwen explained a few words perfunctorily, and then quickly changed the subject. Su Chen didn't say much, raised the corner of his mouth and nodded. When he walked to Daredevil, he slowly said, "Remember, you still owe me 50 million. Pay me back as soon as possible. Otherwise, I will destroy your law firm." Daredevil. The three of them climbed over the walls and climbed over tall buildings. Su Chen was definitely the fastest. To Su Chen's surprise, the second person behind him was Gwen, wearing a spider battlesuit. You must know that Daredevil's super ability is not only a variety of super senses, but also a very strong physical fitness. After getting Gunsu's true biography, it is normal to fly over the walls. However, I didn't expect it to be inferior to Gwen, who had just gained super ability not long ago. Moreover, Su Chen noticed that her cobweb was not sent by web shooters. It actually came out directly from his wrist. Just like the first-generation Spider-Man in the previous movie. If I remember correctly, Ghost Spider-Man should use web shooters. Why can this Gwen directly emit cobweb? Su Chen doesn't know if the situation in the Marvel world is different from previous movies, or if something has changed. He is now very curious about what is going on with Gwen. Along the way, Su Chen asked insinuatingly, which can be regarded as asking something. Gwen is also just getting used to the fact that she has gained super ability. The large number of missing persons in Hell's Kitchen in the past 2 days has kept George very busy. "I have returned home early in the morning for several consecutive days, slept for 2 or 3 hours, and then went out again." It was precisely because of this incident that Gwen gritted her teeth and planned to use her ability to help her father. So, an exclusive battle suit was secretly made. He felt that his ability was somewhat similar to that of a spider, so he gave himself the nickname Spider-Man. Today is her 3rd day fighting crime. Not long ago, she encountered a kidnapping. What surprised her was that the kidnapper actually showed his fangs and wanted to suck blood. After defeating the opponent, another interrogation was conducted, and unexpectedly I heard shocking news. There are actually vampires here in Hell's Kitchen, and there's going to be a blood party tonight. This is simply lawless. Do you really think that the police can't investigate this? Even if I am scared, my sense of responsibility will eventually overcome my reason. So, that scene in the bar happened. Did you get your spider ability after being bitten by a radioactive spider at a biology exhibition? Daredevil was also a little surprised. After gaining super ability, he not only lost his eyes, but also lost his father. Look at people. They just get bitten by a spider and then become super able. Yes, at the moment, the three of them had returned to Su Chen's poisonous pet shop. Faced with Daredevil's question, Spider-Gwen nodded hesitantly. The beautiful eyes behind the mask glanced at Su Chen. She didn't dare to elaborate on the situation. Su Chen knew that she bought him a spider. If she told him, Su Chen would definitely guess her identity. Su Chen's ability is obvious to both her and Daredevil. Do you have any other super abilities? Without Daredevil's reminder, Su Chen could sense that Gwen was avoiding some situations. It seemed that something had changed about the spider that bit her. So much so that Gwen's ability is different from the original Ghost Spider-Man. There are even a few more. Gwen originally didn't want to answer Su Chen's question, but she felt that it should be nothing. Besides, she also wanted someone to talk to about gaining superpower. My own parents definitely can't do it. Telling them will only make them worry. But Su Chen and Daredevil both have super abilities, which gave her a feeling of finding the organization. She nodded and said, "My strength should be 20 times that of ordinary people. It may not be the limit. If you run at full speed, even a sports car cannot catch up. Additionally, I can emit cobweb, and release poison." Quote. As she spoke, Gwen stretched out her finger and flicked it in the distance. Whoosh! A black object flew out from the fingertips and hit a telegraph pole in the distance. Zila! White smoke emitted directly from the telephone pole, and then a small hole was corroded. Seeing this scene, Daredevil was shocked. If this thing bounces on me, the consequences will be really awesome. There doesn't seem to be anything that can release poison at Xavier's school. In addition to releasing venom, it can also emit poisonous gas. She felt as if she had found support in front of Su Chen. Unknowingly, he revealed all his trump cards. Okay, don't tell other people about these things. Also, if you have time, find a fighting teacher to improve your combat power. Su Chen stopped Gwen from continuing. This girl is really innocent. In that case, I will go back and thank you for helping ordinary people solve the disaster. Daredevil bowed to Su Chen sincerely to express his gratitude. Su Chen waved his hand and said, "Come on, I'm not as tall as you said, I just went there for that count. Also, don't forget that you owe me 50 million, or I will destroy your law firm." Quote. If Daredevil wasn't a good person, he wouldn't want to deal with this kind of Madonna. Okay, I remember, Daredevil replied, as if accepting his fate. Then, he looked at Gwen again, hesitated for 2 seconds and said, "Girl, you are a courageous girl. You must know that with great ability comes responsibility." Boom. This time, before Daredevil could finish his words, he was thrown away by a huge force. Boom, boom. It didn't hit the ground until it was a few hundred meters away. Then, I saw Su Chen slowly retracting her feet. If you keep brainwashing others with your virgin remarks, be careful I smash your skull. In the distance, Daredevil's old face was red and extremely aggrieved. But I didn't dare to come up and confront Su Chen head-on. If he were to deal with those purebred vampires, even if he won, he would still have to pay a heavy price. But Su Chen solved it in just a few minutes. Just some superficial injuries. He stood up in embarrassment, not daring to say any more, and hurried away towards the distance. If he stayed for a while, he was afraid that Su Chen would really smash his head. Is he okay? Seeing this scene, Gwen couldn't help but feel worried. It's okay, he got super ability much earlier than you, he's thick-skinned and thick-skinned. Su Chen answered as he took out the key and opened the store door. Gwen glanced at Su Chen twice, hesitant to speak, but still undecided. I'm leaving. See you later when you have time. Okay, I'll have a chance to see you in the future. Besides, that necklace should look great on you. At this time, Su Chen had already opened the door and turned back to look at Gwen with interest. When Su Chen looked at her like this, Gwen's heart skipped a beat. Why does she feel that Su Chen knows her identity? Soon, he relaxed again. How could it be possible that his voice changed, and then after gaining super ability, his body shape also changed? He is 2 to 3 centimeters taller than before. He shouldn't be able to tell, right? After reaching a high-level GU master, Su Chen's senses are not as sensitive as Daredevil's, but he can basically perceive Gwen's current thoughts. Even if the other party is wearing a mask, it's useless. That necklace is very nice, I really hope to see you wearing it. Su Chen did not expose the other party and change the topic. I will wear it for you to see. Is there any chance that I can go on a date with you? You hate it. Well, Gwen walked very quickly, waving her sleeves so as not to take away a single cloud. I was just joking, could I have a date? Why did the reaction become so big? Previously, I and Jessica generously allowed myself to watch the game. Is it possible that after gaining super ability, his personality also changed? Shaking his head, he walked into the store and ordered a meal for 10 people. After devouring it, Su Chen felt that he had returned to his original state. I don't know if there is anything in the system that can be enough for the body's needs. Just like the fairy beans in Dragon Ball. The amount his body needs now is too great and the consumption is huge. It's so troublesome to eat like this all the time. He took off his clothes, which were already tattered and stained with blood, and threw them directly into the trash can. After taking a serious bath and feeling that there was no smell of blood on my body, I put on a bath towel and entered the bedroom. System, redeem rewards. A light flashed on the table, and a pile of GU insect energy blocks were piled on it, almost more than 200 blocks. In addition, there are more than 100 yuan left before, which is enough for these GU insects to eat for a while. Looking at these energy blocks, Su Chen frowned slightly. System, is there any storage space or anything like that? If there is no special thing to save them, if they are left outside, these energy blocks will eventually become waste products due to excessive consumption. Ding, break through the GU King to activate the product function. It seems that this product function can purchase props such as storage space. You might even be able to buy new GU insects. Expectations are expected, but there is still a long way to go before breaking through the high-level GU Master and reaching the level of GU King. These vampires are not enough to fill the gap between your teeth. I sighed. The alien energy in the body still made Su Chen feel a little uncomfortable. It seems that purifying the GU-like insects is something that must be striven for in level 1. By the way, it seems that 2 GU insects were also rewarded. System, exchange for GU worms. Ding, congratulations to the host, you have obtained the Shadow Accompanying GU. Shadow Accompanying GU. Hiding GU insects, you can turn yourself into a ball of shadow, hiding in the darkness. After training together as a second-level GU insect, you can turn other things into shadows to follow. Good GU worm, just what I need right now. He now has long-range attacks, melee attacks, his own power, and the ability to swallow other powers. There are no hidden GU-like insects yet. After looking inside, I found that the orifice was already a little narrow due to the newly acquired GU insects. We need to develop new GU insects. In the future, as the level of the GU insect increases, the larger the hole space required will be. Every GU insect must have an orifice. Without thinking too much, he summoned the wine bug and began to purify the energy in the meridians, dantian and other locations outside the acupoints. Run the GU Master's training method and rush towards a location in the body. Every opening of an acupoint is equivalent to opening up a small space in the body. After having the experience of opening acupoints for the first time, it will be much easier. Along with the trajectory of the GU Master's cultivation method, coupled with the continuous refinement of the wine bug, the efficiency caused by energy is higher, and new acupoints are slowly opened. Puff. I don't know how long it took, but with a muffled sound, a new orifice finally opened. However, Su Chen did not stop and continued to attack the next acupoint. As his purest energy was exhausted, the opening of the third acupoint gradually became difficult. Su Chen clearly perceived the riot of alien energy. Outside, Su Chen's face started to turn red. The body also became like being bitten by thousands of ants because of the alien energy sucked in by the poison. You really shouldn't be sucking the energy out of these winged rats. At the moment, the side effects of the alien energy were finally revealed. If it weren't for the suppression of the GU Master's cultivation method, Su Chen would have been lying on the ground completely convulsing. Even so, Su Chen still endured the pain and continued to open the acupoints. Cultivation is all about working hard at one go. If you stop in the middle, you will definitely have to pay a higher price next time. So, although it was only an hour, Su Chen felt as if a month had passed until 5 acupoints were opened. The energy in the body was completely exhausted, and the pain that the body could bear reached its limit. If all these alien energies were purified into pure energy, then there would be no need to endure this pain at all. When the malfunction opens, the first thing to do is to buy purifying energy type GU insects. Call. He breathed a sigh of relief and collapsed on the floor blanket. Sweat fell in big drops. It wasn't until his physical strength recovered that he released the many GU insects. There were more than 50 energy blocks left on the table. After many GU worms were eaten, they were collected into the acupoints one by one. First, place the Moonlight GU and Little Light GU in one acupoint, and place the Iron Skin GU and Jade Light GU in the same aperture. The Sucking Voodoo, the Needle Voodoo, the Cow Voodoo, and the Shadow Accompanying Voodoo are placed in an orifice. Servant GU and Medical GU are in one acupoint. The Wine Bug occupies a single hole. The Wine Bug is too useful. This is the basic GU insect that allows one to grow steadily. The second level Wine Bug also needs to be trained together with other GU bugs. The value of the required auxiliary GU is definitely more than that of Little Light GU and Jade Light GU. There is still an empty hole left for new GU insects. Su Chen is intended to be reserved for purifying GU insects. There are too many of these GU insects, so we have to hurry up and break through to the GU Master Realm. These GU insects can only be synthesized in the GU King Realm to the second level. Moreover, the chaos in the Marvel world has gradually begun. He doesn't want his destiny to be influenced by others. At the moment, it was already early in the morning, and Su Chen also knew the principle of proceeding step by step. Besides, the alien energy just tortured him so much that he turned off the lights and prepared to rest. Jingle bell. At this time, the phone in his store suddenly rang. Su Chen was a little surprised. This phone was brought with him when the system rewarded him with this store. When he came into this world, he had no time to make friends, and it was impossible for anyone to call him. Is it possible that I still need to pay property fees? Su Chen answered the phone with some confusion, and then heard a slightly proud voice. Hey, friend, I believe you have heard who the owner of this unique voice is. I wonder if it is disturbing you at this late hour. Excuse me, please be careful tomorrow, your brain may blossom. After saying that, Su Chen planned to hang up the phone. This voice is naturally that of the guy the first saved a few days ago, Iron Man, Tony. Friend, your attitude makes me very sad. You know, there is no one in New York. Do. Before Tony Stark could finish speaking, he heard a busy tone coming from the other side. Sir, I've hung up the phone. In the basement, Tony's hand playing with the mecha's arm stopped, his eyes full of interest. This Su Chen is so mysterious. He smiled angrily without any sign of being hung up on the other party and said, call me again. Sir, are you sure he won't really blow your head off? Based on his previous treatment of Obadiah, his strength is at least. Shut up Jarvis. If you say any more, I'll program you as a woman. Okay sir, being connected. Soon, the phone was connected again. Shit, if you're bored, go find your cover girl. I don't have time to chat with you here. Su Chen knew that Tony Stark should tell him something. However, after all, it was so late, who could stay up for days and nights just to study a technology like him? You must not spoil this guy. Definitely, I'm not so bored as to call a man in the middle of the night. Tony Stark's voiceover there became obviously more formal. This made Su Chen a little uncomfortable. Here, Tony Stark spoke to the air projection screen again. I'm calling you to tell you that I've settled the matter on the board of directors. I am the absolute controlling shareholder now, so I no longer have to listen to the nonsense of those old guys. Quote. Anything else? Su Chen knows the key part is coming. Also, a certain kid who has just grown up is going to become a billionaire. Tony Stark raised the corners of his mouth and spoke teasingly. Su Chen was not only a lifesaver to him, but also allowed him to dig out traitors. In fact, it was precisely because of Su Chen's influence that he developed a new technology. An advanced technology that is enough to subvert the current era. Okay, my account number is too long and I can't remember it. Check it yourself. Su Chen didn't congratulate this guy. He also knew that Tony Stark didn't like these vain people. But if you don't have money, that's stupid. I just didn't expect this guy to be so anxious to give the dividends to himself. Tony Stark just announced the closure of the weapons department a few days ago. At this time, it should be the most lacking of funds. I don't know what this guy is thinking. With controlling rights, you are really willful. This guy has been able to support 10 armies with the weapons he has smuggled with me over the years. It's such a heinous crime. I really don't know how my old man fell in love with him in the first place. Quote. When talking about this matter, Tony Stark became obviously excited. Su Chen hurriedly stopped the other party and said, "Okay, is there anything else? It's time to go to bed. I definitely have it. Let me tell you, the technology I developed this time can definitely subvert the scientific world." Tony Stark looked proudly at the nearly completed silver mecha. "Isn't it just that we have developed a mecha? Please deal with some minor problems before the test. Don't kill yourself by then. Do you already know?" "Oh, shit, I was thinking of driving the Mark II to your house to surprise you. By the way, what is the little problem you mentioned? Think for yourself." Su Chen didn't want to say any more. This guy seemed to be as talkative as a little fool. It's just that he hasn't discovered the little fool Deadpool in this world yet, and he doesn't know if he exists. After hanging up the phone, Su Chen unplugged the phone line directly to prevent this guy from getting bored. "Sir, the other party seems to have cut off the call line." Here, Tony tried to ask Jarvis to call Su Chen again to ask what the problem he was talking about was. Because he cared very much about every word Su Chen said. He doesn't know why he thinks this Oriental boy is worthy of trust. "You must be trying to scare me on purpose, to get back at me for disturbing his sleep so late. I'm Tony Stark, how could I be scared by a young boy?" Click. After installing the final armor, he ordered to Jarvis, "Start testing the Mark II on your upper body." "Sir, although we have Mark I as the basic idea, Mark II has basically improved all the problems. But what Mr. Su Chen said is right, there may be some minor problems, and we should do several tests before trying it on the body." Quote. Although Jarvis is an artificial intelligence, its mechanical voice actually sounds a bit serious. "No, I can't wait. My physical fitness is far better than before. I'll be fine. Let's install it. After the poisonous mosquito almost killed him last time. I don't know if it's because of Su Chen's healing light or because of the poisonous mosquito. His current physical fitness is several times that of ordinary people. Now Happy is no longer his opponent. Even with several bodyguards dealing with him at the same time, they are no match. This is why Tony Stark cares so much about Su Chen's attitude. Obviously, Su Chen's mystery is far beyond his imagination. Even if I have the Mark armor, I can't seem to keep up with the opponent. Start assembling." Jarvis could not disobey its master's orders, so it had to start urging the mechanical arm to help Tony Stark install the Mark II. Soon, the life-size Mark mecha, which was all silver and white and covered the body like scales, was put on. Start up. With Tony Stark's roar, Mark II flew along the underground parking garage toward the outside. Ouch! Tony Stark, piloting a mecha and flying in the night sky, is like a bird flying into the forest. Feel the whistling wind in your ears and the lights flashing rapidly below. The excitement are simply indescribable. Accelerate. Speed up more. Full speed. Mark II, constantly changing postures in the air. Looking below, it looks like a meteor streaking across the night sky. Soon, Tony Stark had flown several kilometers. The voice of Jarvis has already been heard here. "Sir, the temperature has reached the temperature that the mecha's skin can withstand. It is recommended to lower the altitude. Keep flying upwards, I know it well." At the moment, Tony Stark had completely forgotten about Su Chen's size and just wanted to fly. Jarvis is just an artificial intelligence. Although it has detected a crisis, it still has to do what its master says. Mark II also started to slow down from its original speed. If you look carefully, you can see that it is already covered with ice. Even so, Tony Stark still seemed not to notice and continued to fly the mecha higher. In his heart, he just wanted to transcend the atmosphere. However, after continuing to fly for a while, the Mark II finally became slower and slower. Finally, all the panels in front of Tony Stark's eyes disappeared, and from the outside, the eyelight of Mark II's visor went out. At the same time, the pushing flames on the soles of the feet and palms were all extinguished. Tony Stark finally felt the cold. "Oh, I know what the problem this guy is talking about is. How could I forget about the icing issue? Shit." As soon as Tony Stark finished speaking, the Mark II completely lost power and fell several kilometers to the ground. The whistling wind came to my ears again, but this time it was an urging sound. Jarvis, activate the de-icing device. Because of the ice, there was no answer from Jarvis. We can only let the Mark II constantly accelerate due to gravity. Shet. Tony Stark wanted to turn on the de-icing device manually, but the armor was all covered with ice, making it impossible to do so. Finally, about 1,000 meters above the ground, the ice begins to thin as the temperature rises. Tony Stark took the opportunity and manually pulled the de-icing device open. Click, click, the ice is finally dispelled. However, the next problem we have to face is that the Mark II system has been covered by ice for a long time and has still not resumed work. Give it to me, open it. Jarvis, come out. Seeing that it was only a few dozen meters above the ground and about to be shattered into pieces, the Mark II finally resumed work. Tony Stark didn't dare to delay. His palms were facing downwards, and propelling flames emitted from his palms. Call. On the roof of a car, the Mark II finally took off again after a dangerous run. This scene happened to be seen by many citizens. They were all shocked. If they saw it correctly, a mecha seemed to have flown over just now. Washington, D.C., SHIELD Headquarters, Tri-Wing Building. A helicopter slowly stopped in the square outside the building, and a middle-aged man with thinning hair got off the helicopter. Entering the building, you will find a hall full of technology. Inside, there are many scientific researchers wearing white coats working in front of precision instruments. The middle-aged man walked into a corridor full of technology, and at the end was a high-tech door. A red light emitted from the door, and after scanning the middle-aged man's pupils, a mechanical sound of successful authentication was emitted, and the door opened directly. The man walked into a specially decorated office and saw a black braised egg head appearing on the swivel chair with his back. How about it? The other party didn't even turn around and asked. Yes, this middle-aged man with thinning hair is the SHIELD agent who will be known as the good old man in the future, Phil Coulson. Definitely, SHIELD is not called SHIELD today. It's that long, unpronounceable name that Tony Stark hates. The black braised egg slowly turned around. Then he saw the same darkness under the braised egg, and a face with an eye patch on one eye. If Su Chen would recognize him at first glance, this person is Nick Fury. He is also the leader of this organization and the founder of Avengers. Director, it has been found out. Su Chen, 20 years old, a young man from China, is currently confirmed to be indestructible and extremely powerful. And the ability to emit light blades and light needles. Even a purebred vampire with terrifying strength is no match for him. The other two, Daredevil, and the girl who recently appeared calling herself Ghost Spider-Man, seemed to have taken no action. I also asked Charles, and he didn't seem to have the X gene, which means he was not a mutant. Quote. In other words, not only did he kill a large gang of thousands of people by himself, but he also easily killed several purebred vampires who fought 1 against 100. Yes, Director. Following Phil Coulson's report from the Mediterranean, Nick Fury's one eye narrowed slightly. Unexpectedly, another powerful super ability person appeared in New York. Moreover, this level of power is no less powerful than those of mutants. Director, our satellite has detected something abnormal. Just when Nick Fury was about to listen to Phil Coulson's next report, a tall figure walked in through the door. Agent Hill, didn't I say you have to knock on the door? Nick Fury was obviously dissatisfied with the other party's lack of discipline. But, Director, didn't you say that if there is an emergency, I can enter your office directly? Maria Hill said nervously. What's so urgent? As the king of agents, Nick Fury also discovered that what the other party was about to report was definitely not trivial. Director, look, Maria Hill handed the transparent tablet in her hand to Nick Fury, and what was playing on it was the image of the Mark II flying rapidly in the sky. The picture is a bit blurry, but it can still be seen that this is the kind of humanoid mecha that appears in science fiction movies. Have you found out your specific identity? Found it out, it's Tony Stark. Nick Fury was not too surprised that the Hill agent was able to find out the identity of the mecha owner so quickly. As the son of their former leader, Tony Stark naturally received special care. Over the years, they have also blocked many dangers for Tony Stark. When the other party develops new technology, it makes sense that they should be the first to know. To his surprise, Tony Stark actually developed such technology on his own. Howard Stark was a genius back then, but he didn't expect his son to be even better. Now, That plan seems to be one step closer. By the way, Director, there was something I didn't report to you 2 days ago. Tony Stark seemed to have been bitten by a poisonous insect. It was Su Chen who saved him. When he mentioned Tony Stark, Phil Coulson remembered what happened not long ago. At this time, Nick Fury sat up directly from the chair. You, Phil Coulson, you guy, why didn't you say something so important earlier? Seeing Nick Fury's ferocious look, Phil Coulson was startled, his face twitched and he said, Director, there is nothing particularly serious about Tony Stark that you mentioned, and there is no need to report to you. Fark. Nick Fury felt that sooner or later he would be fooled to death by his men. If he had known about this earlier, he would have rushed to New York immediately. The ability to bring the dead back to life. None of those mutants can do that. This is already a miracle. If Su Chen can be brought over, he will have some confidence even in the face of alien invasion. This is equivalent to having an endurance-type ability user. What he needs most is such talents. Forcibly calming down, he ordered. Tell New York to pay close attention to their every move. If he behaves abnormally, report it as soon as possible. Call Agent Romanov and arrange a flight for me to go to New York. Yes, Director. Phil Coulson and Hill looked at each other and knew that the value of this super-able young man named Su Chen was definitely far beyond imagination. Otherwise, the director's reaction wouldn't be so exciting. Not long after, several black cars returned to the Tri-Wing building. In the leading car, a beautiful woman wearing sunglasses and tight clothes, showing off her exaggerated figure, sat in it. This is S.H.I.E.L.D. high-level agent Natasha Romanoff, also known as Black Widow. A night of silence. The next day, Su Chen was awakened by a burst of TV broadcasts. He stretched his waist and felt refreshed. When he walked out of the hall in his pajamas, he saw what was being broadcast on the TV. Last night, many people were killed in an underground bar. The police have confirmed that this bar had illegally sold blood. The people killed were also criminals. The cause of the incident is still under investigation. Su Chen chuckled and turned off the TV. Then, he looked in the direction of the bathroom and said, "Come out, intruders are not welcome in my room." As soon as he finished speaking, the bathroom door was opened, and Su Chen saw an extremely erotic scene. I saw a woman with burgundy hair, fair skin, and long, slender legs walking out. That beautiful face and those big, soul-stirring eyes looked at Su Chen as affectionately as she looked at her husband. You have discovered all this, you are so awesome. Even if this woman is wearing a bath towel, she can't hide her exaggerated plumpness. However, Su Chen has no desire to appreciate this woman who can't help but make her nose bleed. Secretly mobilize the Moonlight GU and Little Light GU, and at the same time cover the skin with the Iron Skin GU and Jade Light GU. Although the woman in front of me is different from the one in the previous movie. Su Chen recognized the woman's identity at first sight. S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Natasha Romanoff, the Red House breeds the best agents. But Su Chen didn't expect that the Black Widow in this world is about 1.75 meters tall, and her figure is even more exaggerated. It's going to burst his bath towel. He thought S.H.I.E.L.D. would come to his door, but he didn't expect it to be so difficult. This is normal. S.H.I.E.L.D. has eyes all over the world, and its intelligence network is world-class. It is not difficult to find out yourself. They probably even checked his own ability. Looking at Su Chen with clear eyes, Natasha Romanoff was a little surprised. She knows her own charm best. Even those specially trained agents cannot stop her charm. When had I become unable to attract even a hot-blooded young man? This time, it was Natasha Romanoff who was confused. If you're wondering why you didn't seduce me, then don't waste your efforts. Su Chen ignored the other party's shocked eyes after hearing his words, and sat on the sofa and started making phone calls to order food. Others don't know what Black Widow is like, but he knows it very well. Whether it's a movie or a comic, Black Widow has been available for many times. He is somewhat misophobic. Moreover, Black Widow's actual age is already 40 years old, but she has been drinking the physical potion developed by S.H.I.E.L.D. all year round. Not only did it improve her physical fitness, it also made her look like she was only in her 20s. To him, a 20-year-old young man, the other party is already an old aunt. It seems like he understands us very well. In this case, there is no need to beat around the bush. Tell him our purpose directly. Quote, seeing Su Chen looking so leisurely, Nick Fury's eyes were a little downcast as he watched the black braised egg on the big screen. Su Chen is obviously more mysterious than they thought. On Natasha Romanoff's side, the small headset hidden in her ear picked up the other party's command. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, revealing a rather charming smile. He just sat next to Su Chen, pointed the mountain at Su Chen, and spoke slowly. Since you are so direct, I won't hide it anymore. I want you to join us in a project that only extraordinary beings can accomplish. This plan exists to protect the Earth. Unpredictable dangers will occur in the future world. As a member of the Earth, your power cannot be wasted. Quote. Su Chen glanced slightly, and it turned out that it was not hidden, it was so big, so white, and so deep. Ba ba ba. Su Chen hurriedly controlled his eyes to prevent himself from getting lost in his mind. This woman is not a first-hand product, this is just the other party's vicious method, and he must not be fooled. He coughed twice, calmed down completely, and said, I'm sorry, I don't have the habit of working for others. I've always been used to being free. I am indeed a member of this world. If the world encounters unimaginable dangers as you said, I will definitely take action, but not because of you, but for myself. Quote. After breaking through to the high-level GU Master, I am fully capable of competing against S.H.I.E.L.D. What's more, with the Shadow accompanying GU, it is no problem to kill S.H.I.E.L.D. At this time, S.H.I.E.L.D. should be called Snake and Shield. Because it has been riddled with holes by the resurgent Hydra. For example, Alexander Pierce, Black Braised Egg's friend and immediate boss, is one of the top executives of Hydra. As an agent, Natasha Romanoff's perception is beyond ordinary people, so she naturally noticed Su Chen's eyes an unnatural look just now. The smile on his face gradually blooms, and his charm has not declined because the other party has been patient. At this time, Black Widow approached Su Chen, wanting to stick directly to him and unleash her greatest advantage. This time Su Chen had already taken precautions and said slowly, sorry, I'm not interested in old women. Natasha Romanoff almost got mad on the spot and gave Su Chen a scissor kick. How old am I? Even though she is old, her physical functions are much better than those of an average 20-year-old girl. At this moment, the professional agent quality almost broke the defense. Neither men nor women like to be called old, even if they are female agents. However, Nick Fury's voice sounded in the headset at the right time. Don't anger him, Natasha Romanoff, you've seen the information. With his strength, 100 of you plus your colleagues outside are no match for him. Quote. Nick Fury's voice paused and became deeper. He didn't fall out on the spot, so he already gave us face. We don't want to be ignorant. Since he has clearly expressed his wishes, don't force him. Otherwise, it will definitely have the opposite effect. Let's find a way later. Quote. He really wanted Su Chen to join. But he understands that if an extraordinary person is driven to panic, it will cause unimaginable consequences. Just like the Skrulls back in the day. If Team Jing hadn't stopped them, they would have finally reconciled with each other by promising to help them find a new home. A catastrophe will break out on the Earth that year. He believes that in the face of the crisis on Earth, those extraordinary beings will definitely be organized by him. He can call Carol at any time, but this opportunity cannot be wasted. Natasha Romanoff took several deep breaths before her mood calmed down. He also understood that Nick Fury's instructions were correct. Su Chen is very likely to be scarier than Hulk, completely uncontrollable. He glared at Su Chen fiercely, regardless of whether the other person was there or not. He took off his bath towel and put on his tight-fitting combat uniform as quickly as possible. Seeing the other person staring directly at her, Natasha Romanoff felt a lot more comfortable. No, I seem to like letting him peek. Could it be that I fell into this guy's trap? She felt that Su Chen was definitely not interested in her at first glance, so that she would have a desire to win. So as to achieve the current effect. This man is so cunning, so shameless. We will meet again in the future. With a cold snort, he slammed the door and walked out. Walking to the front hall, looking at the poisonous pets filling the hall, he picked up a small wooden cage containing a dark spider. He took out a bunch of knives from a ravine, put them on the cabinet, and walked out of the store. Facing the other party's eyes, Su Chen was somewhat embarrassed. But I immediately felt that it was not my fault. It was you who insisted on changing your clothes under my eyes, and I didn't take the initiative to see you. Who is this? Walking to the front hall, I saw a wad of money on the counter and a missing spider cage. Su Chen's eyes immediately lit up, feeling that there was a new sales channel, and hurriedly shouted to Natasha Romanoff, who was leaving. Hey, you guys probably like to study all kinds of things. The poisonous pets I have here are very unique. Do you want to buy dozens of them? The price is definitely fair. If we cooperate for a long time in the future, we will get a 30% discount. Quote. After waiting for a long time and no response from Natasha Romanoff, Su Chen sighed slightly. This shield is no good either. I won't even buy a few bugs. Soon, Black Widow angrily walked out of this somewhat remote alley. Many figures walked out of the darkness, and they were the shield agents who came with them. However, they all have something red under their noses. It looked like he just had a nosebleed. At the moment, they were still staring at Natasha Romanoff in a certain exaggerated position. It doesn't look like a well-trained agent. Natasha Romanoff became even more angry when she thought about her performance in the room just now. Look, everyone will practice fighting with me when I get back. Even if Su Chen took advantage of him, these guys actually dared to take a peek. Many shield agents hurriedly entered the black car. They also have troubles that they can't tell, and we don't want to see them. Who knew that we would encounter such a thing while performing a mission? As professional agents, they also feel ashamed. After Natasha Romanoff and everyone left, Su Chen completely relaxed. Put the GU insect back into the hole, sit on the sofa and wait for breakfast. He had long noticed the shield agents. After breaking through the high-level GU master, his senses are far beyond those of ordinary people. You can feel everything going on around you. However, he had just arrived in this world. There has been a lot of commotion these days. It would be very troublesome if those Hydra people in S.H.I.E.L.D. got involved, and it would definitely affect his improvement in strength. Bang! Not long after Su Chen's meal arrived, he heard a sound like metal falling to the ground outside. You big shit, if you dare to trample my floor to pieces, you will look good. Chapter 41. Outside the door, Tony Stark, wearing a red and gold mecha, posed in a classic mecha landing pose. Su Chen just glanced at it and didn't want to pay attention to this stinky guy. Hey, friend, I'm really disappointed with you. Shouldn't you jump up in surprise and say, this is a genius invention? Tony didn't care if Su Chen wanted it or not, he just walked in wearing Mark III. The visor opened, revealing a somewhat conceited face. Su Chen didn't bother to pay attention to this guy at all and just kept eating. Tony had never been treated like this before, and he suddenly felt unhappy. Hey, you got more than 3 billion from me for nothing, and this is how you treat your boss. That's what I deserve. How about I poison you again? You don't have to pay. You can choose one of these bugs. Su Chen pointed at the many poisonous pets in the store with a threatening look on his face. Seeing these hundreds of colorful bugs, Tony immediately shrank his neck. He had already been poisoned to death by Su Chen's bugs once, and the feeling was not very pleasant. Su Chen ordered a chicken drumstick, looked up at Tony who looked wary, and asked, "What, has the icing problem been solved?" Sure enough, this guy didn't tell him on purpose. He glanced at Su Chen angrily and picked up a bottle of drink on the table. It's solved, I used military aerospace materials this time. So, you want me to praise you? Su Chen continued to cook. Tony really felt that this young man was his calamity, and he couldn't raise any arrogance in front of him. Okay, I originally planned to customize a mecha for you, but looking at you like this, I'm not particularly interested. After saying this, Tony kept observing the changes in Su Chen's expression. What he was thinking was that Su Chen would be very surprised next second, and then begged himself to do it quickly. As a result, what I saw was still Su Chen working seriously, but he just shook his head lightly. No, when you can develop nanotechnology and make nanomechas, you can make them for me. Otherwise, it would be too troublesome to carry an iron bump every day even if I could fly. Quote, you have a beautiful thought. Although I have thought about nanotechnology. But that's only at the conceptual stage. Wait, you mean? When Tony heard Su Chen's words, he almost jumped up and asked, look, are you speaking human language? I went to work to make a mecha for you, but you still look down on me. But mid-sentence, he realized that Su Chen could predict the future. Having said this, is it possible that I can really make a nanomecha? Thinking of this, my heart couldn't help but beat rapidly. Whether you can develop it or not depends on you. I can't completely guarantee that you can develop it. It's true that we know the plot, but who knows if it will change. If I remember correctly, there seems to be an Iron Man using a steam mecha in the multi-universe. Who knows if the Tony Stark of this world can develop nanomechas? However, with this guy's level of genius, it should only be a matter of time. Boy, just based on your words, I will definitely develop it. Tony was obviously so excited that he immediately went back to study the nanomecha. Okay, don't forget to make a few more sets for me when the time comes. I also like collecting them. Su Chen is a little funny. Tony Stark is in his 30s, but sometimes he is also a child who has not grown up. Okay, I'm just here to say goodbye to you. I'm going to the Middle East to get rid of that 10 rings. If I hadn't been poisoned by your mosquito once, I might really have fallen into the hands of these beasts. Moreover, there is no telling how many innocent lives these guys have killed with weapons manufactured by Stark Industries. No matter what level it is, I will destroy this terrorist organization. Quote. Tony's words were impassioned. Obviously he was a bit conceited, but he was also very responsible sometimes. Okay, I'll give you a round of applause first, and then I'll treat you to barbecue when I get back. Su Chen clapped twice and gave the other party a look of affirmation. Barbecue. Is it your unique Chinese food? It sounds like a very good idea. The United States has barbecues, but they are different from those in Eastern countries. After thinking about it for a while, Tony spoke again. I recently got news that Osborne Industries seems to be going bankrupt. I gave you another 20 billion. If you take action at this time, you can basically buy all the shares cheaply. Quote. Upon hearing this, Su Chen paused while cooking. Although Osborne Industries does not have a market value of hundreds of billions like Stark Industries, it is at least in the hundreds of billions. Tony Stark, as the head of the Stark Group, naturally cannot lie. His meaning is obvious. He can use the more than 20 billion funds to acquire all the shares of Osborne Industries. I can't develop technology. After thinking about it, Su Chen still shook his head. Besides, isn't your Stark Industries about to go bankrupt? If you give me more than 23 billion, are you really not afraid that those shareholders will go crazy? Osborne Industries is about to close down, apparently without new product support. However, after Stark Industries announced the closure of its weapons department, it was about to go bankrupt. Besides, he is just a GU master who practices GU Dao, so he has no time to study science. But you can bring people back to life. With this alone, you can create a business empire. Tony Stark did not answer what Su Chen was talking about, because in his opinion, money was something he could easily earn back. In addition, they seem to be secretly developing some kind of human strengthening serum. It is said to be to solve Norman Osborn's family genetic disease. At that time, you can use this thing to make a Coca-Cola and tell the outside world that this is a medicine that can eliminate all diseases. Then you use that power to cure other people's diseases. Boy, you will make a lot of money. Quote. At this time, Su Chen was completely surprised. That's right, I will be able to break through to the GU King realm soon, and the malfunction will be opened. At that time, you will definitely need a lot of money to buy more powerful GU insects and other items that can enhance your strength. With Osborne Industries, you can use its name to make a lot of money the way Tony Stark said. I don't even have to do anything myself. I just need to add the energy of the medical poison into ordinary water. It can become a magical medicine for treating various difficult and complicated diseases. If the disease is particularly serious, such as a family genetic disease like Norman Osborn's, you can also treat it yourself. This thing is definitely a major event that subverts the world, even far more than Tony Stark's Mark Mecha. Quote. Sure enough, in addition to being a scientific genius, Tony Stark also has a vicious business vision. Seeing the movement in Su Chen's eyes, Tony knew that his suggestion was recognized by the other party. A message was projected on the mecha. I have already contacted him, and you can go to this restaurant to talk to him in the afternoon. Let me remind you, including the shares of other shareholders of Osborne Industries, it is only 30 billion. Quote. After saying that, Tony waved his hand, and the posture mecha left. Looking at the additional corporate information on the mobile phone screen, the corners of Su Chen's mouth raised slightly. It can be seen that Tony really doesn't like to owe people favors. He actually arranged everything for himself. I looked at the time and saw that there were only less than 2 hours left. After finishing the meal quickly, Su Chen simply changed her clothes and rushed towards the restaurant. Director, Tony Stark just left Su Chen's store. He transferred more than 20 billion to him and asked him to acquire Osborne Industries. Shield New York branch, Phil Coulson reported the news he just got to Nick Fury. Nick Fury nodded, not paying too much attention. Waving his hand, okay, let's continue observing and tell Barton to be careful. Yes, Director. Afterwards, Phil Coulson stopped staying and left the director's office. Just in time to pass by Natasha Romanoff. Phil Coulson agent, your hair seems to be getting shorter again. Natasha Romanoff looked at Phil Coulson's Mediterranean and couldn't help but tease her. Phil Coulson obviously hated others talking about his hair. He said with slight dissatisfaction, Romanoff agent, this joke is not funny at all. Natasha Romanoff didn't pay attention to the other person's appearance, she just smiled and entered Nick Fury's office. How's it going? Are the results out? Seeing the arrival of Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury's interest was obviously much higher than before. Natasha Romanoff nodded and placed a document on the table. There really is special energy. Nick Fury's one eye couldn't help but widen when he saw the content on the document. Natasha Romanoff didn't care that Nick Fury was a bit groggy and continued the report. 2 days ago, a person who called herself Spider-Woman appeared in New York. She has abilities comparable to those of a spider. After tracing, it was learned that she was Gwen Stacy, the daughter of Manhattan Police Chief George Stacy. A few days ago, she went to Su Chen's pet store and bought a poisonous pet. It seemed to be a poisonous spider pet. Quote. Natasha Romanoff simply ignored the fact that Gwen and Jessica went to the Osborne biology exhibition that day. She would rather believe that Gwen's super ability comes from Su Chen's poisonous pet than that spider from Osborne Industries. What's more, the poisonous pet test report she brought back further confirmed this. Snapped. Upon hearing this report, Nick Fury slapped the report on the table and asked with some excitement. You mean, the ability she gained also came from that spider? Yes. At this time, Nick Fury stood up and moved around constantly, as if thinking about something. Natasha Romanoff continued. At that time, there was another girl named Jessica Jones who went with her. At that time, Su Chen also got into trouble with the mafia because of saving the two of them, and had no choice but to kill them. And the girl named Jessica seemed to have purchased a venomous snake. Quote. Immediately send someone to pay attention to this Jessica's every move to see if she will gain super ability again because of that poisonous pet. Nick Fury suppressed the excitement in his heart and quickly issued the order. If this is possible, does it mean that he has a way to create a large number of artificial superpowers? Over the years, their department has been developing super soldier serum, but has never been successful. In other words, Captain America's super soldier serum was successfully developed by luck. The plan to mass-produce super soldiers may not be feasible. But now he learned that Su Chen's poisonous pets might have the effect of allowing ordinary people to gain super abilities, which was an unexpected surprise. Natasha Romanoff, you did a great job this time, and your agent level can be raised by another level. Although Nick Fury always talks about messing with FARC, he still never fails to reward his subordinates. Natasha Romanoff's eyes lit up slightly. She is now a level 7 agent, and rising to the next level will be a level 9 agent behind the director and Phil Coulson, Hill. That way, she would get more resources. She doesn't have to worry about the next step of body function medicine. After all, she is almost 40 years old, and she is still very resistant to aging. Therefore, it is necessary to obtain new functional potions to maintain peak condition. Whether it's appearance, figure, or body function. This is one of the reasons why Natasha Romanoff joined S.H.I.E.L.D. Not long after, Su Chen arrived at the place agreed upon by Tony Stark and Norman Osborn. This is a medium-sized restaurant that is not too luxurious. After Su Chen showed his identity, the waiter took him to a private room on the second floor. Looking at the time, I saw that I had arrived a long time early. In this case, just wait. Including the 2.5 billion from the mafia, Su Chen currently has 26 billion on hand. The treasures obtained in the vampire lair have not yet been exchanged, but they are only 10 million at most, which is not worth mentioning. It's still far short of the 30 billion that Tony Stark said. Seeing this, I need to talk a lot. Or, use other methods yourself and let Norman Osborne lower the price. Doesn't he have a family hereditary disease? From the looks of it, the lifespan should be only a few years. Otherwise, the group's business would not be focused on biogenetic science. Apparently they want to develop human serum to solve their family's illness. However, this seems a bit funny to Su Chen. He knows how Green Goblin was born. At this time, Norman Osborne should still be developing a human strengthening serum. Su Chen has never met Norman Osborne, but has seen him in the news. It seems that the group has just focused on projects such as biological sciences and genetic sciences. In other words, Green Goblin should not have been born yet. Boom. However, just as Su Chen finished his thoughts, he heard a violent explosion outside. Quack quack. Then, with his keen hearing, he heard a duck-like laughter coming from the restaurant hall. At the same time, it was accompanied by various chaotic sounds. Monster, monster, run. Help. Su Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. He stood up and walked out of the private room. If you come to discuss business, you will encounter danger. Hearing this somewhat familiar laughter, it couldn't be so. When he walked out of the door, he saw the situation in the lobby on the first floor. In midair in the hall, floating on a strange skateboard, was a figure wearing what looked like Green Goblin equipment. At the moment, he was holding a pumpkin-shaped bomb in his hand, laughing evilly as he threw it at the innocent people around him. Boom, boom, boom. With the violent explosion, the entire restaurant was blown beyond recognition. Definitely, this is nothing compared to the ordinary people who were directly bombed without any bones left. Green Goblin. The first time he saw this guy, Su Chen knew that his guess just now was wrong. This guy Norman Osborne has actually become the Green Goblin. This suddenly reminded him of the news about the night he was about to set out to deal with vampires a few days ago. At that time, I only focused on Tony closing down the weapons department. Just think that the explosion was a gang fight. Now that I think about it, there is indeed something wrong. Green Goblin's pumpkin bombs seem to have some kind of thermal energy that can blow up bones. Now that I have seen it with my own eyes, I can confirm it. I almost had a face-to-face acquisition negotiation with Green Goblin. Thinking of this, Su Chen's heart skipped a beat. Hey, I found you. Su Chen was stunned for 2 seconds when he heard an extremely unpleasant sound coming into his ears. At the moment, Green Goblin floated in front of Su Chen on hang-gliding wings. The eyes behind the ferocious mask stared at Su Chen solemnly. Quack, quack, it's you who actually wants to take away my company. I'm going to blow you to ashes. Green Goblin smiled that ugly smile again, and before Su Chen could react, he threw a pumpkin bomb at the opponent. Then, the glider under his feet quickly retreated. Whoosh! The pumpkin bomb exploded less than 10 centimeters away from Su Chen. However, this pumpkin bomb only emits a violent bright light. This is a thermal bomb secretly developed by Norman Osborne. It may not cause harm to the surrounding things, but if it explodes around the human body, no bones will be left in an instant. Hee, now let's see how you can steal my company. Osborne Group will always belong to me only. Norman Osborne, wearing a Green Goblin suit, made a duck-like sound from his mouth, full of the pleasure of getting revenge. At the moment, the restaurant was full of holes, and almost all the people in the restaurant had fled. Those who didn't escape were killed by Green Goblin's pumpkin bombs. Hey, what are you laughing at, Big Goblin? However, just as Green Goblin was giggling and turning around to leave on his hang glider, a somewhat playful voice suddenly came from behind. Why are you not dead? Green Goblin turned around and saw Su Chen standing intact, and his heart beat violently. Although the Green Goblin personality made Norman cruel and dark, his IQ also improved a few points. The guy who wants to acquire his own group has extraordinary powers. This thought immediately flashed through his mind, and the eyes behind the Green Goblin mask were full of astonishment. A few days ago, he injected a human strengthening potion he developed, which gave him extraordinary strength. Moreover, another personality has grown up in his body, and this personality has now become completely dominant. The bombings in the past few days were all caused by him. He has already enjoyed the pleasure of killing people wantonly. When I learned that my company was going to be acquired, I rushed here immediately and wanted to blow up this guy. Osborne Industries is his and no one can take it away. If you want to rob his company, you will die. Looking at the Green Goblin in the sky, Su Chen chuckled and said, Osborne, your abilities are really bad. You are easily taken over by another personality. What did you say? I didn't do this. Hearing Su Chen's unabashed ridicule, the Green Goblin floating in the air was a little shaken. He covered his head with his hands, looking very painful. His consciousness was not completely occupied by the Green Goblin personality. Su Chen's words made his main personality regain dominance. Seeing the destruction and killing he caused around him, he was so frightened that he knelt down on the hang glider. The hang glider also began to wobble in the air because it was out of control. Seeing this scene, Su Chen was a little surprised. She didn't expect that Norman's personality could still come out and scream. But soon, Osborne stopped struggling, the glider floated slowly again, and Green Goblin stood up from it. Humph, I am Osborne, no matter who you are, you will die. You are really extraordinary, you actually figured out the identity of this person, let's see if I don't kill you. Quote. Obviously, Norman Osborn's main personality is no match for the Green Goblin personality. After roaring at Su Chen, he threw another pumpkin bomb. This time the pumpkin bomb is a normal explosion. However, it is several times more destructive than ordinary grenades. You're not afraid of thermal bombs. Ordinary bombs should be able to kill you, right? However, what happened in the next second made Green Goblin stunned again. The thrown pumpkin bomb was caught by Su Chen in his hand, and then he put his hands together to wrap the pumpkin bomb inside. Puff! Then, intense bright light emitted from Su Chen's palm. The bomb just exploded in his palm. However, it did not harm Su Chen at all. This move counts as stealing Luke Cage's patent. Su Chen opened his palms, and a thick smoke came out of his palms, along with some pumpkin bomb fragments. Now, even though the Green Goblin has a cruel personality, he is still a little scared. At the moment Su Chen was so serious that he almost looked like a monster. Your outfit is quite unique. Do you want to consider becoming my slave? You deserve to die. Green Goblin, who was a little surprised at first, became furious when he heard such provocative words, and constantly threw pumpkin bombs at Su Chen. But they were beaten away one by Su Chen. Boom boom boom. This high-end restaurant has completely lost its appearance. The corridor on the second floor was also completely blown apart. Su Chen fell into the lobby on the first floor and slowly approached Green Goblin. Seeing Su Chen still standing in place intact, the explosion was like adding a special effect to his appearance. Seeing this scene, Green Goblin was jealous and panicked. Large caliber bullets were fired from the hang glider and hit Su Chen's body. But it had no effect and kept bouncing around. Go away, go away. Whoosh. Green Goblin didn't even notice him, even though he was floating in the air, because Su Chen was approaching step by step and constantly retreating. He was afraid. Ever since he appeared, he had been taking pleasure in destroying things. He had never felt like this before. But at this moment, facing a monster like Su Chen who was not afraid of any attack, he knew he was afraid. No longer hesitating, he directly fired several small missiles under the glider towards Su Chen. Boom, boom, several violent explosions sounded, and the 6-story high-end restaurant was completely reduced to rubble. Su Chen's figure was also enveloped by the explosion. At the last moment when the building collapsed, Green Goblin ran out on a hang glider. At the moment, the street was filled with panic, screams and other sounds. Looking at the Green Goblin floating in the sky is like actually seeing a terrifying demon. At the moment, sirens sounded all around. A dozen police cars pulled up to the end of the street, escape pistols pointed at the Green Goblin. You have committed a serious crime, so hurry up and get arrested. Behind the police car at the front, George raised his pistol and spoke solemnly to warn. Quack, quack, reptiles, I'm going to kill you all. Green Goblin casually dug into his back pocket, but found that he didn't touch anything. He tried to control the glider to fire large caliber bullets towards the police, but found that nothing happened. Including small missiles, they have also been used up. Thinking that he had used up all the ammunition to kill that guy, Green Goblin went into rage. Hey, if that's the case, then let me tear your bodies apart. Green Goblin flies quickly towards the police on a hang glider. With his power, he can tear human bodies into pieces at will. Shot. George was shocked, yelled and pulled the trigger. Many police officers were also shocked. They didn't expect this guy to be so crazy and started shooting. Ding ding ding. However, the bullets hit the Green Goblin suit and were bounced away. This exoskeleton suit is obviously made of special metal. Seeing the Green Goblin getting closer and closer, George felt a sense of despair in his heart. Gwen, Dad may have to die. They have seen the cruelty of the Green Goblin. The ruined restaurant is the best witness. At the moment, the hang glider was less than 3 meters away from George. The sharp part of the hang glider flashed with cold light and was about to pierce into George's brain. At the critical moment, a figure like black lightning came from the side and slammed into the Green Goblin that was rapidly advancing in the air. Boom! A violent noise came. Green Goblin and his glider crashed into a shop. Ah! Blah blah blah. The Green Goblin's screams could be heard outside, as well as the sound of several walls being smashed. George and others only felt their eyes flash again, and the voice headed in the direction of Green Goblin. Bang bang. I'm giving you face, don't you? Do you really think you are so powerful? I'll kill you, a giant goblin. Boom, boom. At the moment, all the ordinary people on the street had fled, leaving only a group of police officers. The atmosphere was eerily quiet. They only heard dull blows and the Green Goblin's screams. Definitely, and Su Chen's thoughts. Disgusting thing, you have ruined all my clothes. What do you want in return? At the moment, several walls in the store, Su Chen slapped Green Goblin in the face in circles. The Green Goblin mask made of special metal has been smashed by Su Chen huge amounts of power. Ah, let go, no matter how easy it is for Nuo to be afraid of Fang Ning. At the moment, Green Goblin has completely lost his arrogance. He just felt like he was knocked away by a huge amount of force, and then he saw Su Chen's intact figure appearing in front of him. No matter how dull he was, he knew that his attacks did not cause any harm to Su Chen at all. What a terrifying strength this must be. It's simply a monster, no, a devil. Only the devil is not afraid of any physical attack. And he forgot that he called himself the Green Devil. At the moment, he finally knew what fear was and what despair was. Because he was punched in the face by Su Chen, he couldn't even make a complete plea for mercy. Hey, aren't you very arrogant? Why doesn't the famous Green Goblin stand up? Bang bang bang. Su Chen never gave the opponent a chance, but still punched the opponent one after another. The reason why he withstood Green Goblin's weapon attack just now was because he wanted to see how strong the defenses of Iron Skin Gu and Jade Light Gu were. Although Green Goblin's various weapon attacks are not as intensive as those of the Mafia, their destructive power is several times more powerful. Not surprisingly, the defense power of the 2 Gu insects was simply unimaginable. Luke Cage can crush grenades with his bare hands because of his hard skin and high-density bones. And the strength of his Gu is more than 10 times that of his opponent. This still does not have the effect of training together to become a second-level Gu insect. When the Gu insects are trained together to reach the next level, their defense will increase geometrically. Now, Yi Niu Gu's power has almost been transformed into his own power. When combined with a bull poison, his power is almost several hundred tons. Without any blessing, there is no problem in blowing up a 3-story building. However, he still has use for Norman Osborne. Therefore, less than 1,000th of the power is used. In fact, after only a few punches, Green Goblin lost consciousness. However, Su Chen didn't want to let him go, so he broke his sternum, 4 limbs, and even 5 limbs. Even if Green Goblin wakes up, he will be permanently disabled. On a rooftop in the distance, a sturdy middle-aged man couldn't help but gasp several times when he saw this scene. Fortunately, he didn't do anything extraordinary to Su Chen secretly. He just completed the task and observed every move of the other party. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. The destructive power of that punch would probably have caused his brain to come out long ago. Director, you still underestimated the opponent's strength. Hawkeye Barton wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and muttered to himself. It wasn't until several minutes passed that there was no more sound coming from inside. George and the other police officers looked at each other in confusion. After they stared at each other for a long time, George gritted his teeth and said, "I'll go in and take a look." "Director, let's go with you." So, the two police officers who had sent Su Chen off before followed their chief into the store. The three of them felt their pistols and moved forward cautiously. The scene inside made them stunned again. Several walls in the store were smashed, and it even hit the room on the other side. After passing through the smashed wall, I saw that there was no one here anymore. All that was left was a huge amount of what looked like a large crater, a broken glider, and a fragmented demon mask. "Bureau, Director, what should we do? They obviously don't encounter many situations where people with extraordinary abilities fight against each other." George still held the pistol cautiously and slowly slumped to the ground. A feeling of surviving a disaster came to his mind. He almost thought he was killed in the line of duty just now. Fortunately, the person behind took action. However, he always felt that the fleeting figure looked familiar. But for a while, I had no idea. What can we do? Try to eliminate traces of surveillance and tell the media that someone is illegally researching technological weapons and has been arrested. After a while, George regained his senses and expressed his solution. "You must not say anything about extraordinary beings, otherwise it will definitely cause some panic. Hey, officer, do you need help? You look like you're having a hard time." At this time, a figure wearing black, white and pink colors came to the front of George and the others while swinging cobweb. "Ghost Spider-Man, how dare you show up here? Hurry up and catch me. You are under arrest." After seeing the other party, George immediately raised his pistol and pointed it at the other party vigilantly. Gwen's face behind the mask was gritting her teeth. Why is her father so stubborn? "I'm not a bad guy, I just helped you catch two thieves and made you feel embarrassed." How stingy. He raised his hand helplessly and said in a deliberately accelerated voice, "Officer, I have helped you catch many criminals. If you don't thank me, why are you still arresting good people? You must be jealous of my power, right? Quote. Shut up and put your hands behind your back. Who knows what your intentions are with this vigilante behavior." George was obviously not swayed by Gwen's words, and he stretched the pistol forward a little more. I don't know what his expression would be if he knew that the figure in front of him was the daughter he wanted to protect at all costs. Okay, don't get excited, I just want to ask where the two people who were fighting just now are. Today is Sunday, and Gwen was shopping with Jessica just now, and then the spider sense issued an early warning. He lied to Jessica that there was something going on at home, ran into the bathroom, changed into a spider suit, and rushed over. Then, all I saw was the ruined restaurant. I happened to see Dad George here. On the one hand, I was worried about Dad. On the other hand, I also want to see if I can find out who caused so much damage. Tom, take her down, George ordered coldly. After hearing the order, the police officer on the side said with some embarrassment, "Chief, Ghost Spider-Man has helped us several times. He shouldn't be a bad guy, right?" "Shut up, do you want to be punished?" George still feels that vigilantes like Ghost Spider-Man have ulterior secrets. The battle between the two extraordinary beings just now made him even more convinced that people with extraordinary power must doubt it. All right, the two police officers had no choice but to take out their handcuffs and approach Gwen. Naturally, Gwen would not surrender and easily knocked the two of them to the ground. Then, the spider sense alarm sounded loudly, and Gwen quickly stepped aside. Bang bang, 2 gunshots were heard, and when he looked over, he saw white smoke emitting from the pistol in George's slightly trembling palm. "I'll go, George Stacy, do you mean it?" Now, Gwen was also angry. Not long after, many police officers waiting outside suddenly heard gunshots. They could no longer sit still and wait for death, and rushed over to support them. Then, I saw 2 police officers lying on the ground trapped by the cobweb. And George Stacy dropped from the ceiling by cobweb. Ignore Dad again, this idiot Dad. At the moment, Gwen, who was hanging in the air, was a little sad. Even if Dad didn't recognize her coming, he still wanted to arrest her. There is quite a sense of déjà vu that you have done a good deed but your father misunderstood you for committing a crime. You must know that her father has loved her the most since she was a child, and she naturally likes her father as a slave girl. When have you ever been treated like this by your father? Although he knew his current identity was Ghost Spider-Man, his father didn't recognize him. However, Gwen still couldn't help but feel sad. He doesn't know why, but he doesn't want his father to recognize her as Ghost Spider-Man, but he also wants his father to recognize her. Then he said to her, "My daughter is amazing." This kind of conflict made her feel so confused. Director, Su Chen has left with that Green Goblin. Do you want me to continue following you? Hawkeye is talking to Nick Fury through a small communicator. Nick Fury, who was in the New York branch of S.H.I.E.L.D., saw the entire battle. Definitely, because Hawkeye was outside, he didn't see the scene of Green Goblin attacking Su Chen. But I still saw Su Chen knocking Green Goblin away. At the moment, his one eye was full of surprise. He knew that Su Chen was very strong, but this time he understood Su Chen's strength better. A super able person who is not afraid of bombs, something even Captain America cannot do. Not even those Skrulls. I'm afraid only monsters like Hulk can fight him. Surprise is a surprise, but reason has not been lost. Faced with Hawkeye's inquiry, he thought for a while and replied. You come back first, I will ask Romanov agent to pick up your shift later. Wait, be careful behind you. Before Nick Fury finished speaking, he saw a figure appear behind Hawkeye. Hawkeye, who has been working as an agent for many years, also felt someone behind him. He turned around and wanted to draw an arrow. However, he was pushed back by a slender palm. Then, a huge force came, and Hawkeye was directly pressed to the ground with his hands behind his back. Hey, man, don't struggle, you can't beat me. I just want to know that you have been watching here for so long. You should have seen where the two fighting people went. Tell me quickly. Quote. Gwen Stacy became Ghost Spider-Man, and her free will was completely released. Even when facing a level 7 agent, I didn't feel the slightest bit nervous or uncomfortable. Tell him, Hawkeye, don't fight her, you can't fight her either. The S.H.I.E.L.D. branch was a little nervous when they saw Nick Fury throughout the whole process, but they also realized that Ghost Spider-Man probably meant no harm. They also recently heard about Ghost Spider-Man. However, the focus has always been on Su Chen and Tony Stark. In addition, Ghost Spider-Man is like a loach, and it is unrealistic to send an agent to follow him. However, Nick Fury has secretly remembered the other party. There is one more candidate in the plan. Okay, I'm telling you, let go of me first. Hawkeye was grabbed by the Ghost Spider-Man with such force that it felt like his bones were about to break. Even so, he gritted his teeth and persisted. You speak first, and then I let go. Although Gwen has never been in contact with the agent, this guy is sneaky and we must not let him go easily. They went there, but I don't know if they changed their route midway. There is no way, this girl's power is too great, even 10 of him may not be her opponent. Gwen used her superpower of perception, and the difference was so great that the other party didn't lie. Thank you, Uncle, your compound bow is very good, but don't attack people casually. By the time Hawkeye heard this, Ghost Spider-Man had already let go of him and swung away in the direction he pointed. Ghost Spider-Man can indeed use his spider senses to perceive other people's mood swings. However, due to the influence of Su Chen's spider, the current Ghost Spider-Man's senses are obviously more powerful. Not to mention being like Daredevil, who can hear other people's heartbeats and make judgments. But it's easy to tell whether someone is lying. Hawkeye moved his arm, which was still in pain, and felt extremely suffocated. Ghost Spider-Man is obviously young, and he, a senior agent, was actually rendered unable to fight back. If this was sent back to S.H.I.E.L.D., he would be completely embarrassed. But he could only swallow this breath, use the rock climbing rope to jump off the tall building where he was, and rush back towards S.H.I.E.L.D. On S.H.I.E.L.D.'s side, Nick Fury's single eye was full of solemnity. There are more and more extraordinary beings nowadays, and people like Green Goblin obviously belong to the category of villains. If the extraordinary people on the side of justice are called superheroes, then the extraordinary people on the villain side are supervillains. It would be really difficult to deal with the supervillains if we didn't have manpower. Green Goblin and the others had noticed it a few days ago, but this guy was worse than a loach. It was difficult to find at all, and S.H.I.E.L.D. lost a lot of manpower. We need to talk to Tony Stark quickly. Now, the only person with the best chance of joining his plan is the son of his senior Howard. Playing the emotional card, it should be almost the same. Nick, I heard that you were investigating a supernatural being recently. Why didn't you tell me? At this moment, Nick Fury's office was pushed aside, and then a man with some gray hair walked in. Facing the other party's question, Nick Fury also frowned a little and said, "Pierce, this matter hasn't been implemented yet, so what can I do if I tell you?" The person coming was none other than Alexander Pierce. His position is the Secretary General of the Council, and he is also Nick Fury's immediate boss and good friend. Now that I am here, I obviously know about Su Chen and Tony Stark. You are just too indecisive. To deal with such people, you should adopt unconventional methods. If I hadn't learned what happened just now, would you have kept it secret from me for a long time? Quote. Obviously, Alexander Pierce learned about the battle just now. Do you think that with Su Chen's power, unconventional means will work? That's your S.H.I.E.L.D. problem, but Su Chen must be arrested. I have to intervene in this matter. I will send people to find an opportunity to do it. Don't cause trouble when the time comes. Quote. After saying that, Pierce opened the door and left without staying any longer. Nick Fury's face was obviously a little uncertain. He hurriedly dialed a number, and after being connected, he said, "Natasha Romanoff, please remind Su Chen to be careful of being attacked these days. If possible, we can help here." Quote. He knew that although Pierce was no longer the S.H.I.E.L.D. director, he still had his own team in S.H.I.E.L.D. Now that he is going to take action against Su Chen, the situation may be out of control. It is very possible to capture Su Chen and conduct research. That could create a supervillain again. Therefore, Nick Fury did not hide the fact that he told Natasha Romanoff about Pierce's recent arrival. Natasha Romanoff listened quietly and finally replied, "I know, Director." Then hung up the phone. Just now, a huge explosion occurred in a restaurant on Sturt Street, causing dozens of casualties. The police said this was a thermal weapon illegally developed by dark forces. This incident has alarmed the parliament. In an extremely spacious villa, Su Chen sat on a large leather sofa. Using chopsticks I don't know where they came from, I tasted dozens of sliced steaks and sauce on the table. Pick up a bottle of high-end red wine and take a sip. Staring at the TV screen intently. What was playing inside was the scene of the restaurant being bombed into rubble, and the Green Goblin laughing maniacally while floating in the air. "Sir, does my husband really not need to be sent to the hospital?" At the moment, lying on the hall floor lies the shady Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborne. At the moment, his Green Goblin suit had been beaten to tatters by Su Chen. Blood was constantly bleeding from various places on the body. An old man stood next to Su Chen and asked with fear on his face, "This is Norman Osborne's house. And this old man is the butler who served the Osborne family here a generation ago." At the moment, I saw Norman Osborne's appearance and vaguely identifiable clothes. Combined with the scene just played on the TV, the old housekeeper, who is a human spirit, immediately understood what happened. It turns out that my master is actually the murderous devil. However, what shocked him even more was that the young man in front of him, who looked to be less than 20 years old. It was so easy to beat the master who turned into a demon like this. If it weren't for the occasional chest flutter of the other party, he almost felt that his master had been beaten to death. However, for the master to commit such a big crime, being beaten to death may be retribution. But after all, he is his master. He has watched Zhang Da since he was a child, and he is still a little worried when he looks like this. Su Chen picked up 3 small pieces of steak with chopsticks and put them in his mouth. "Don't worry, I can't let him die." As he said that, he stretched out his palm in front of the old housekeeper's wide eyes. A ray of pure white light enveloped Norman Osborne, but disappeared in less than 2 seconds. Ahem. Then, the old housekeeper saw that the old man who had been breathing out a lot but not taking in a lot of air actually coughed up 2 mouthfuls of blood, and his eyes slowly opened. "Master, you are awake." "Hey, you are confused." The old butler naturally knows why Norman Osborne is like this. The Osborne family's hereditary disease, knowing that the young master's generation still can't get rid of it. The master's father, the former master, also died before the age of 40 because of this disease. Norman Osborne will focus the group's business on biological and genetic projects. I just want to develop drugs to solve this family genetic disease. Now it seems that it has obviously failed and turned the master into such a monster that is neither human nor ghost. Fortunately, this young man stopped it, otherwise it would have led to more serious consequences. That's why he made this somewhat helpless sigh. You, don't come over. Norman Osborne's face still has some shapeshifting. The physical injuries did not improve, and Su Chen only briefly regained consciousness. At the moment, Norman Osborne was still in his Green Goblin personality. He looked at the old butler who was walking towards him, thinking that Su Chen had sent him here to kill him. After seeing Su Chen, his eyes were filled with fear and he kept begging for mercy. Please forgive me, I don't dare to be disrespectful to you anymore. I can be your slave, anything is fine as long as you don't kill me. The company will give it to you, and I will even help you kill those shareholders. You can get the shares without spending a penny. Quote. At the moment Green Goblin saw Su Chen as if he were seeing a real devil. He no longer looked as cruel and arrogant as before. The pain in his body left him unable to even pray for death. This person is so cruel. His appearance also frightened the old housekeeper to stop. This is not my master, this is the monster. While the old housekeeper was frightened, he was also filled with sadness. Can't the master change back? Forget it, I don't like having a young slave by my side. Su Chen somewhat despised the other party's begging for mercy. Originally, he thought Green Goblin's personality should be very powerful. Now it seems that he is not even a 10,000th as good as Sentry's Void personality. In fact, it is not even comparable to the weakest group of personalities in the group. In this case, there is no use in keeping it. Norman, you should wake up, he is very weak now. Su Chen made a hunch and said casually. This made the old housekeeper beside him a little confused. Soon, he understood what Su Chen meant. I saw. After hearing this, Norman Osborne's face suddenly changed, and his expression suddenly became extremely painful. Ah, get out of here, I am Norman Osborne. This voice was obviously different from Green Goblin's Drake voice just now, and seemed a little deeper. Apparently, this is the voice of Norman Osborne's main personality. Master. The old housekeeper on the side also noticed it and called out in confusion. Ah, no, don't come out. At this time, it became the voice of Green Goblin again. I am Norman Osborne. You devil, get out of here. Norman Osborne's voice was gritted. Finally, Norman Osborne stopped with a lot of sweat on his bloody face. Master, is it you? The old housekeeper tried to ask again. Norman Osborne endured the unbearable pain in his body and looked at Su Chen who was still eating steak and pleaded. You must be Boss Lin, I beg you to save me. I don't want to be controlled by that demon anymore, please help me cure it. If you can make a move, I am willing to give you the shares I hold. Quote. Although his body has been occupied by the Green Goblin personality, he also knows what happened. Two personalities can share memories. The reason why he was able to wake up was obviously because of Su Chen's extraordinary power. In this case, the Green Goblin personality can definitely be solved. Just these things are not enough if you want me to save you. Su Chen really wanted to buy the Osborne group, but the price was obviously not enough for him to treat his mental problems. I am willing to be your subordinate and serve you forever. Just please, just don't tell my son, Harry. Quote. Norman Osborne also knew that he wanted someone like this to help him, and that small amount of shares was simply not enough. Even if he gives the shares of other shareholders to Su Chen, it may not be possible. Therefore, he could only make this decision. Master, you. Shut up. The old butler wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Norman Osborne. Then, still looking at Su Chen pleadingly, please, Mr. Lin. Su Chen paused slightly while eating the steak, as if thinking. Then, he nodded and said, okay. As soon as these words came out, Norman Osborne seemed to see a majestic light in Su Chen. I couldn't be more excited. However, Just a slight movement affected the wound, and he almost fainted from the pain. His state at the moment was as miserable as it could be. Blood continued to flow from a hole in his head. The bridge of his nose was broken and his face was covered in blood. The sternum is collapsed and looks terrifying. The limbs were severed and shape-shifted, and even the crotch was shattered. The old housekeeper also hurriedly pleaded, "Sir, can you really save me? I am also willing to serve you. I have to say that this old butler is very loyal." Su Chen stretched out his palm toward Norman Osborne, and a white light shone out and enveloped Norman Osborne's body. Then, a magical scene happened. Norman Osborne's broken body began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. At such an old age, the old housekeeper's eyes almost popped out when he saw this magical sight for the first time. Soon, Norman Osborne was shrouded in white light, and all his injuries recovered. He stood up in disbelief and looked at his body. Am I recovering now? He had thought that Su Chen had the extraordinary power to heal injuries, but he never thought that it would be so miraculous. This is simply like a dream. Master, you're welcome, that's great, that's great. The old butler also reacted and helped Norman Osborne, whose smiling old face was full of grooves. Thank you, Boss Lin, thank you. I am willing to be your subordinate and will work for you in the future. Norman Osborne was also a little excited. He originally thought that he would only be saved by the other party. Unexpectedly, it can be restored to its original appearance. Definitely, he didn't forget what he said. Su Chen waved his hand and said, "It's too early to be happy, Green Goblin is still here." Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, Norman Osborne's expression began to change. "Sir, you saved me, I am your slave now. What he just said doesn't matter. I can directly help you kill those shareholders. All shares are given to you." Quote, obviously, after recovering from his injuries, Green Goblin still did not dare to resist Su Chen. However, the roving eyeballs completely betrayed him. "Boss Lin, don't believe him. He has no bottom line. Can you kill him?" Norman Osborne's personality recovered quickly this time, and he spoke anxiously. "Don't worry, I don't like this guy either." Su Chen stretched out his hand again, and white light enveloped Norman Osborne's brain. The originally anxious Norman Osborne's expression turned into panic again. "No, don't kill me. I really want to be your slave and will never betray you. Please let me go." Green Goblin felt that his will was being annihilated by extraordinary power, and his heart was suddenly filled with despair. Su Chen's mouth was full of sarcasm, and he said in a deep voice, "I don't like multiple time bombs around me." In this way, after Green Goblin finally let out a scream of unwillingness, he was completely wiped out by the medical GU. Ding, the host completely kills the supervillain Green Goblin and will be rewarded with 30 energy points. Unexpectedly, after killing the Green Goblin personality, he was directly rewarded with 30 energy points. It seems that it is also because Green Goblin is a famous villain. At the moment, Su Chen felt that his GU Master Realm had been completely perfected. All it takes is an opportunity to break through to the GU King Realm. By then, it will reach planet-level power. Feeling that the cruel and dark figure was no longer in his mind, Norman Osborne knelt down in front of Su Chen with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, boss, for your kindness in reinventing me." Norman Osborne was very excited, it was finally over. "Wait, my family has a genetic disease." At this time, Norman Osborne discovered something else. He had known that pain all too well for so many years, but at the moment it seemed to have completely disappeared. This shows that Su Chen cured his family's genetic disease. In an instant, he felt as if he had been reborn. "Boss, I will never betray you and I am willing to devote every drop of my blood to you." Norman Osborne knew that everything he had was given by Su Chen. Su Chen can give him health or make him worse. At this time, he must show his loyalty. Moreover, he didn't know why, but he didn't have any intention of betraying Su Chen. It's like being loyal to the other party has become a principle that must be followed. Otherwise he will pay a heavy price. Su Chen naturally does not believe others' words easily. Therefore, when treating Norman Osborne, he had already put the servant into his body. He can even feel that as long as he thinks about it. A single thought can control the servant GU in the opponent's body to explode, leaving no trace of the opponent behind. However, This GU is very useful. Unless the person controlling the GU dies, the servant GU returns to its ownerless state again. Otherwise, the other party will never have the slightest hint of rebellion. This thing is quite easy to use. When the malfunction is opened in the future, you can buy a few. After all, there are so many powerful people in the Marvel world, so control them to do things for you. The feeling of becoming the big boss behind the scenes seems to be quite good. As for Norman Osborn killing many innocent people, what does it have to do with him? He is not a holy mother, and he has to let his subordinates bear legal responsibility. Then wouldn't it be a waste of his efforts to save him? Okay, I don't like others kneeling down to me. Su Chen waved his hand. Norman Osborn and the old butler then helped each other stand up. Both of their faces were filled with joy. The half-finished body-strengthening potion you injected did give you the Green Goblin personality. However, your strength is far beyond that of ordinary people, and you can lift about 30 tons of weight. Now that you no longer have the Green Goblin personality, this strength is completely your own, but... Boss, I know. Before Su Chen finished speaking, Norman Osborn seemed to know what Su Chen would say next. That project will never appear again. I will develop new projects to help the company make a comeback. Norman Osborn thought that Su Chen said this because he did not want him to continue to use this harmful human body-strengthening medicine. He can produce Green Goblin in his body, and so can others. This thing must never appear again. However, Su Chen's words made him almost choke. No, you don't understand what I mean. Can this thing be mass-produced? Su Chen ate the last piece of steak slowly, but he was not full. This thing was not enough. After Norman Osborn and the old butler looked at each other, they asked in disbelief. Boss, are you kidding me? He felt that Su Chen was definitely not the kind of irrational person. It must have been a joke because the atmosphere was so depressing. Definitely not. But Su Chen's answer almost made him lose control of his expression again. Boss, I don't understand why. Norman Osborn couldn't help but question, if this thing comes out, it will definitely cause huge amounts of disaster. How can we still produce it? What I'm talking about is definitely not the mass production of the semi-finished human body strengthening potion you developed. Su Chen naturally thought of the advice Tony Stark gave this morning. Palm 38 give it to Osborn, Ghost Spider-Man fans. Later, Su Chen told Norman Osborn all of Tony Stark's ideas. He has planted the slave GU and is not afraid of the other party's betrayal. As for the old housekeeper, he wasn't worried at all. After listening to Su Chen's words, Norman Osborn thought for a few seconds. He clapped his hands excitedly and said, Okay, boss, this project is not only feasible, but will also make a lot of money. At that time, you can create potions of different levels according to the amount of energy you have. Potions with higher medical energy have higher prices, and can even be sold at sky-high prices. Those rich people in the upper class would probably have to fight for their heads if they encountered such a thing. Quote, Definitely, you can create a civilian version of the potion. This doesn't require much medical energy. You can also make a lot of money. Quote, In just a few seconds, Norman Osborn had already thought of many feasible solutions. Su Chen couldn't help but sigh. Life in the business district is indeed different. He originally thought that the medical potion he wanted to create was only for the upper class. After all, once this thing comes out, all kinds of difficult and complicated diseases can be cured, even mental illnesses. It will definitely sell for a sky-high price. But Norman Osborn provided him with another plan. This plan is also feasible. You can completely consume less medical energy and create a civilian version of medical potions. When the time comes, it will definitely impact the medical market. Okay, I have more than 20 billion in hand. You can use it to buy out the shares of those shareholders. There shouldn't be any problem, right? Su Chen thought for a while and handed a card to Norman Osborn. He believed that with Osborn's business capabilities, he would be able to handle it well. Norman Osborn solemnly checked his bank card and promised, Don't worry, boss, I will definitely let you purchase those shares at the lowest price. Well, go ahead. If you satisfy me, maybe I can treat your son's disease. Although Su Chen doesn't have a boss, he knows how to give his subordinates a boost. Norman Osborne's chicken blood was easy to fight, which was undoubtedly his and his son's disease. He is not afraid that Norman will not work well. After all, the servant GU is there. However, improving employees' work enthusiasm can sometimes produce twice the result with half the effort. Are you telling the truth? Thank you so much, boss. Don't worry, I will definitely get things done. I'll go now, just wait for my news. Quote, sure enough, Norman Osborne was extremely excited when he heard that Su Chen was willing to take action to solve his son Harry's problem. He went to the old guys at Osborne Industries to discuss acquisitions. Su Chen didn't want to stay any longer, so she told the old butler to prepare more steaks next time and left. The old housekeeper sighed inwardly at Su Chen's huge appetite. There were more than 20 steaks, weighing dozens of kilograms, but he was still not full. This young boss is indeed different from ordinary people. On Su Chen's side, as soon as he went out, he bumped into a delicate body falling from the sky. Didn't you see someone coming? Gwen. Su Chen looked at Gwen wearing Ghost Spider-Man and was slightly surprised. Why did this girl come here? Moreover, in this situation, he actually used his original voice. Gwen was obviously aware of this problem and hurriedly changed her voice and argued. Ah, who is Gwen? Is she your friend? Su Chen looked a little amused at the other party's forced quibbles. I guess the face behind the mask is extremely red. Oh, I'm sorry, your voice just reminded me of a girl. Su Chen didn't expose her poor acting skills and cooperated with the other party while suppressing her laughter. How did you find this place? Su Chen wanted to say, didn't you only come out to fight criminals at night? You should be shopping with Jessica at this time. Gwen stood up like a carp and said, I heard that there were criminals here attacking ordinary people, so I came here. But when I arrived, I found that he had already left, so I inquired about it and came over. I didn't expect it was really you. Where is the criminal? I want to bring him to justice. Quote, I've solved it, you don't have to worry. Su Chen didn't tell the other party everything. This girl is still too innocent. If she tells her the truth, she might have a fight with her on the spot. Oh fine. Gwen seemed to believe Su Chen's words and didn't ask any more questions. However, Su Chen still saw the other party's somewhat disappointed mood. After thinking for 2 seconds, he smiled and said, you seem to have something on your mind. Do you want to go get a cup of coffee? Let's talk to me. Really, to be honest, she had wanted to chat with Su Chen for a long time, but she never found the opportunity. Su Chen is a mutual acquaintance of Gwen Stacy and Ghost Spider-Man. Although Su Chen may not know that Ghost Spider-Man is Gwen Stacy, Su Chen is the same transcendent as her. Only Su Chen can give her some advice. But you looked at your outfit, shook your head with difficulty, and said, forget it, people will roll their eyes when I wear this outfit. Really? Then look over there. Su Chen pointed to the grass in the distance, where 2 girls wearing Ghost Spider-Man suits happened to be walking by. It's just that there's a big gap in figure compared to Gwen. I saw Su Chen and Gwen coming over to say hello cordially. Haha, it turns out you also like her. Your figure seems to be very similar to hers. Oh my god, she looks like Ghost Spider-Man himself. Wow, look at her body. It looks like it's made of special fabric. Sister, if you want to sell this piece, I'll pay a high price. When the 2 girls saw Gwen's battle suit, their faces were filled with stars. Seeing the 2 people's disbelief, Gwen didn't know what to say for a moment. Don't worry now, Ghost Spider-Man's reputation has been deafening recently. Seeing Gwen's embarrassed look, Su Chen couldn't help but want to laugh. Seeing your fans wearing your iconic clothes is also a special feeling. Okay, I'll take you to a cafe. Only then did Gwen realize that she had unknowingly become famous as Ghost Spider-Man. Gwen glanced at the 2 girls wearing Ghost Spider suits and said sincerely, thank you for your likes. You have a great figure too. After saying that, he grabbed Su Chen and left Cobweb. The 2 girls stood dumbly for a long time, and then 2 penetrating screams came out. Holly, that girl just now was really Ghost Spider-Man. Oh my god, wasn't she dreaming? She seems to be very young, she looks like a high school student, and she has such a good figure. Su Chen and Su Chen naturally didn't know how the 2 girls were chattering. It's just that Su Chen felt a little awkward at the moment. What should I do if a grown-up man like me is grabbed by a yellow-haired girl and swung back and forth in the air? Waiting online, quite urgent. Mom, look, it's Ghost Spider-Man, and she seems to be holding someone in her arms. That must be the bad guy that Spider-Man caught. Spider-Man is indeed our friendly neighbor. Su Chen, whose senses are already very strong, accidentally heard the conversation between the mother and daughter below, and she almost dug out a 3-bedroom apartment in the air. It was quite refreshing to hang in the air and feel the wind blowing by my ears, but being held by someone like this, not to mention it was still daytime. Then only she is dead. Soon, Su Chen and Gwen came to a relatively quiet alley. A small cafe appeared in front of them. Finally, the social death journey just ended. Although Gwen has become stronger than the original Ghost Spider-Man for some unknown reason, she can even swing cobweb very fast. But someone below could still notice the scene of Ghost Spider-Man grabbing a man. Grandma, you bullied me into not being able to fly, right? When the mall opens, in addition to buying a GU worm that increases speed, he will definitely get a GU worm that can fly. Entering the coffee shop, there is only one waiter and a barista at the front desk. Although the store is small, it is very clean and tidy. There were only a few scattered customers inside. Seeing Su Chen and Gwen walk in, the waitress was stunned for a moment and then smiled. Welcome, miss, you are the third guest wearing a Spider-Woman suit today. This way, please. With that said, he led Su Chen and Gwen to a table by the window. Hearing the service staff's words, Gwen also relaxed completely. It's better if no one looks at you differently. However, I am even more surprised that I am so famous. From beginning to end, Su Chen just smiled and nodded without saying much. Now Gwen is just a little girl who has just gained super ability and is a little confused. Even though she knew she should do something with her ability, this incident still disrupted the trajectory of her life. Sometimes, you can only understand things slowly by yourself. I'll have a latte with sugar and milk, thank you. Gwen still had her specially changed voice and said to the waitress. Su Chen also looked at the other party with a smile and said, a cup of Americano, no sugar added. To be honest, he doesn't really like drinking coffee. But there is no Oriental tea here, so just have a cup. At the moment, Gwen looked out the window quietly, obviously in a daze. Su Chen did not urge the other party, but just observed secretly. At the moment, Gwen's mood was obviously a little disappointed, as if she didn't get the recognition she wanted most. Finally, Gwen slowly turned her head and said, Su Chen, you said that if you have extraordinary power, you really shouldn't show it. Why do people always misunderstand me when I want to do something within the scope of ability? Quote. Su Chen couldn't see what she looked like now, but he could feel that her eyes were absolutely red. Even if she didn't say much, Su Chen could guess what the other person had just experienced. After beating up the Green Goblin on his own, the police arrived with Gwen. Gwen, the Ghost Spider-Man, was regarded as a suspect by the police. And, the person taking the lead must be Gwen's father, George Stacy. The person who most wanted to be recognized not only did not recognize him, but also regarded him as a suspect. That feeling, you know how uncomfortable it is just thinking about it. What's more, Gwen is only a high school student who has just come of age. Su Chen took a deep look at Gwen, who was wearing a mask, and picked up a bag of sugar and a stirring stick next to her. At this time, the waitress also brought their coffee over. Under Gwen's doubtful gaze, Su Chen tore open the sugar packet and poured it into her cup. Look, if you add sugar to this cup of coffee, it will become very sweet. However, if I don't stir it, there will definitely be a lot of sugar that cannot be completely dissolved. In the end, although the coffee taste became sweeter, it did not achieve the ideal effect. At this time, I just need a stirring stick and stir a few times here. The sugar will be completely dissolved and the coffee will taste better. Quote. Su Chen did not continue. Based on this action, she believed that Gwen would understand. Gwen stared blankly at Su Chen's movements for a long time, and her eyes lit up behind the mask. He understood what Su Chen meant. So, he said in surprise, you want to tell me that coffee is this society? Sugar is the police. The existence of the police can indeed make society safer. But sometimes it doesn't solve all problems. But at this time, an extra stirring rod can solve the problem that the police cannot solve. I understand, thank you Su Chen, you have strengthened my belief. Quote. Seeing how disappointed Gwen was just now, the next second, he became extremely excited because of his actions. Su Chen almost said, "That's awesome. Is this what he meant? He just wants to tell Gwen that you are one of a kind. Don't be like this cup of coffee, which changes its original appearance because of other people's mixing." In the end, she actually understood it like this. Seeing as if Gwen had solved a heart problem, she lifted up a corner of her mask, revealing her red lips and drinking a latte. Su Chen simply didn't know how to answer it. However, this girl's lips are really pretty, if only she could taste them. Bah, how can monks like us be deceived by beauty? He also picked up the coffee and took a sip. Sure enough, the coffee was not as bitter as he wanted after adding sugar. However, no matter what she thought, it was different paths leading to the same destination, which solved her knot. Su Chen, I know I am not the savior, but I am willing to contribute a small amount of strength to the stability of the world. Gwen, who had completely resolved her knot in her heart, started talking more. She began to ramble on about how many criminals she had fought and how many crimes she had prevented. I don't know if Spider Totem has this characteristic. After becoming Spider-Man, he seems to have become a bit talkative. In this regard, I am afraid that only Deadpool can compare with it. However, Gwen said she contributed a small part, which is not quite accurate. Su Chen has also paid attention to Gwen these days. After all, he admired this girl very much. Especially that in the excellent figure that is far beyond her peers, she is simply charming. Her best friend Jessica seems to be pretty good too, but she is 2 centimeters shorter than Gwen. The appearance can be different. I can't think about this anymore, I want to conquer the multi-universe. What OAA, Oba will all tremble under his feet from now on. I don't want to fall in love or anything like that. Unless the girl takes the initiative. Su Chen had just finished this thought when he heard Gwen's slightly teasing voice. Mr. Su Chen, you seem to like my Uxianbu very much. Saying this, Gwen leaned her plump body forward. Su Chen said another curse word in his heart, even if he was wrapped in a tights, it would be useless. There is reason to suspect that the material of this tights is very good, otherwise it might explode when Gwen fights. I never saw Gwen with such a good figure when watching movies and TV shows before. In this case, I'm afraid only Black Widow Natasha Romanoff and Scarlet Witch Wanda, who has never met before, can surpass each other. Feeling the teasing look behind Gwen's mask, Su Chen also touched her nose in embarrassment. I was thinking about the problem unconsciously, and my eyes were so sincere. I'm just thinking about something. Cut. Gwen clearly didn't believe this explanation. However, being stared at by Su Chen, instead of resisting, Gwen felt a little happy. Gwen, why are you like this? For a moment, Gwen even felt that she was too bold. He actually showed it to Su Chen so boldly. This reminded him of the first time he met Su Chen and was stared at by Su Chen. Not only did he not dodge, but he deliberately bent down to let the other party see. Is it possible that I have fallen in love with this guy? After untying the knot in her heart, Gwen returned to her original appearance as a girl who loved to dream. Thinking of this possibility, my heart couldn't help but beat fast. They had only met 3 times, how could he be so casual? Is this what is called love at first sight? After seeing Gwen's reaction, Su Chen became even more embarrassed. This thing is an instinctive reaction, and I don't want to. This was the first time that someone had seen through his mind after traveling through time. This feeling is really not good. Hey, handsome guy and girl, do you mind if I sit here? However, at this moment, a voice broke the awkward situation. Su Chen raised his head and saw a woman wearing a long black dress and wavy hair standing aside with a smile on her face. She is about the same height as Gwen, but her scale is even greater. The black dress is very slim, and her plump breasts are equally exaggerated. What are you here for? That person is none other than Black Widow Natasha Romanoff. Hadn't he clearly told them that he would not join any women's federation plan, so why were they still so persistent in their pursuit? As if she saw what Su Chen was thinking, Natasha Romanoff raised her lips with a charming smile. Don't worry, I'm just here to remind you one thing. Waiter, a cup of macchiato. After saying that, regardless of Su Chen's reaction, he was right next to Gwen. She is. Gwen was obviously a little dissatisfied with Natasha Romanoff, who suddenly came over to ruin the atmosphere. But a good tutor still asked politely. Natasha Romanoff extended her hand generously and introduced herself. Hello, I'm Su Chen's friend, my name is Natalie. I also like Ghost Spider-Man very much. Natasha Romanoff didn't reveal her real name while pretending to be a Ghost Spider-Man fan. Upon hearing this, Gwen's original dissatisfaction immediately disappeared. It turned out that she was also a fan of hers. Hello, he immediately reached out his hand and shook it happily. This outfit is really good. If it is made of body armor, the effect will be even better. Natasha Romanoff touched Gwen's spider battlesuit and couldn't help but make suggestions. Upon hearing this, Gwen's eyes lit up behind her mask. Yes, her skills are indeed not bad, but in many situations she will face criminals with guns. In a head-on confrontation, with her skills, she can resolve the battle before the opponent shoots. But what if the other party plays dirty tricks? Spider senses are indeed very powerful, but they cannot guarantee 100% safety. I believe your idea, Spider-Woman will approve. Spider-Gwen replied happily. Natasha Romanoff also smiled and chatted with the other party without revealing anything. Seeing that the two of them were getting happier and happier as they chatted, Su Chen couldn't help but interrupt. If you have anything to say, just say it, don't waste time. Su Chen could tell that Natasha Romanoff must have something to say when she came over. It probably meant Nick Fury, but are you really chatting like this? Are you ignoring the mission? Don't worry, it's safe here. Natasha Romanoff looked at Su Chen with charming eyes and replied. Su Chen understood what the other party meant. Apparently there were many people from S.H.I.E.L.D. here. That's why Natasha Romanoff is so indifferent. So, Su Chen watched the two women chatting for about 10 minutes. I have to say that specially trained female agents are really powerful. Even if you are chatting with a girl who loves fantasy in adolescence, you can still have a lively conversation. From campus, friends, to clothes, outfits, bags. Su Chen was almost isolated. I'm so sorry, I have to go to the bathroom. Finally, Gwen left temporarily, and Su Chen had the chance to speak. What are you going to do? I don't have much time to deal with you. Natasha Romanoff still looked charming, with resentment in her eyes. What kind of attitude do you have? I'm just here to remind you of something. Stop talking nonsense, and don't bother thinking about it, I won't accept your tricks. Although Su Chen doesn't hate Natasha Romanoff, she definitely doesn't like her. Besides, he doesn't want to have too much contact with S.H.I.E.L.D. Speaking of which, the upcoming disaster on Earth is largely related to S.H.I.E.L.D. If they hadn't been studying this and that all day long, how could they have attracted the purple sweet potato demon? Definitely, he won't stop this. To increase your points, you have to rely on the villains who come after you. You really don't understand amorous feelings. Natasha Romanoff was obviously even more resentful. Su Chen's attitude was still cold, that's for you. Finally, feeling that Su Chen was tired, Natasha Romanoff stopped pretending, sat up straight, and said, well, I just want to tell you that Pierce is watching you. Although they are also affiliated with the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. But their methods are completely different from ours. The director asked me to remind you to be careful. Quote, sure enough, I was targeted by the Hydra gang so quickly. From this point of view, people like Alexander Pierce should be people from Hydra. The Snake Shield Bureau that many time travelers ridicule. These guys are really brave. It seems that my behavior is too ordinary, which allows these young people to dare to think wrongly. But, unless they use Tesseract, which is the space gem, they might take it seriously. To deal with these miscellaneous soldiers, Su Chen didn't even have to use all his strength. Su Chen didn't expect that Nick Fury would take the initiative to send someone to remind him, which surprised him. It seems that S.H.I.E.L.D. has already begun to split at this time. The Snake Shield group has become a thing. I don't know if those Winter Soldiers who are comparable to Captain America can hold a finger on their own. I know, tell Nick Fury that this matter is done to my satisfaction. Well, after hearing Su Chen's words, Natasha Romanoff became a little confused. After all, They are a mysterious organization, and Su Chen doesn't take their director seriously at all. Mom, this boy. Sure enough, after hearing these words, Nick Fury's violent voice came from Natasha Romanoff's transparent headset. I don't know why Natasha Romanoff wasn't angry at all because her director was slighted. On the contrary, I feel a little refreshed. Su Chen did what she had never done. This time, with a happy smile on his face, he stood up and said, "Okay, I won't interrupt your little couple's date anymore. You have to be careful about being attacked unexpectedly these days." No. Su Chen waved his hand and did not look at the other party again. Natasha Romanoff took a deep breath, her original good mood gone again. "Is this such a nuisance to you?" However, before leaving, he spoke again. "Let me remind you again, you have been eyeing the Osborne industrial gold you want to acquire for a long time. It's very likely to make him angry, right? Quote, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.